video of the encounter, citing a rule against deliberate attempts to manipulate public conversation using misleading information. An hour to the close on Wall Street, a sell-off continues. The Dow's down 411. This is Fox News.
Hey, it's Sharon Trobner, neurobrain expert with a helpful tip on how to improve your memory, concentration, and focus. Let me ask you, when's the last time you were in a conversation and all of a sudden you just zoned out? You know what I'm talking about, that senior moment that can happen at any age when you lose your place, totally space out, and forget what you were talking about. It's embarrassing, like you're in mental quicksand. I've heard this so many times from clients and was determined to find a great product that really works. My research led me to Limitless, the powerful, natural, advanced formula that will supercharge your brain. Everyone that I suggest Limitless to says, wow, this is awesome. Just take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll notice a huge boost in memory and focus that's almost not fair. I recommend to call Limitless and find out how to get a free bottle. It's life-changing.
To find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless, call 800-605-1708. 800-605-1708. Free bottles for a limited time. Call now. 800-605-1708. 800-605-1708.
As the partial shutdown continues, some 800,000 federal workers are about to miss another paycheck, including TSA agents. Fox's Laura Ingle is at New York's LaGuardia Airport.
TSA workers in some areas have had to rely on food pantries and local charities to get food on the table for their families. We're told morale is extremely low. And we've also been hearing that people have been actually trying to give people money and gift cards as they walk through. But TSA agents cannot accept donations from the general public.
It's against ethics rules. The ripple effects could ultimately include some school lunches.
Schools around the country take part in either free or reduced price lunch programs for low-income families. Most receive some sort of federal backing, paying local school districts back for meals they give out. But with the shutdown, that means those funds are starting to dry up. Some are dipping into cash reserves, but others are choosing to scrap the programs on a temporary basis. Many districts have funding through February. However, in more rural areas of the country with smaller budgets, their funds are starting to run out. Jim McKay, Fox News.
An American accused of spying in Russia denies it during a court appearance.
Former Marine Paul Whelan had a bail hearing in Moscow today. He was arrested in Moscow at the end of last month after having been handed a flash drive by an unnamed Russian. Whelan's lawyer insists his client thought he was getting some travel tips, while Moscow says Whelan had solicited state secrets. Whelan insisted today he is innocent. The bail hearing was closed to press, but Whelan's lawyer said he spoke at length and was dignified defending himself, also adding that Whelan looks forward to proving that he did nothing wrong. Russia has said very little about the case. Moscow has said, however, that he was caught during an espionage operation.
Fox's Amy Kellogg. Whelan was ordered to stay in prison until at least the end of February as the legal process continues. Again, a sell-off on Wall Street driven mainly by global concern about slowing economic growth. Dow's down 433. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing her proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time in any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed the sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word on their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory is in effect for the forecast area. Periods of snow showers here for this afternoon, possibly mixing with areas of freezing rain here early on. Total daytime accumulation of 2 to 4 inches possible. Areas of blowing snow likely as well. Cloudy skies, temperatures holding rather steady. For tonight, good chance for snow showers, 2 to 4 inches possible. A low near 7 above. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 23.
Tough as nails, nerves of steel. If you've come to test our metal, you better tighten up your chin strap. Get amped up for all the gridiron action on the Panther Sports Network.
University of Northern Iowa Sports are brought to you on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD by Mitch Lund State Farm, Party Productions, The Other Store, and New Age Media. Catch UNI Sports right here on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
It's time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Zoom gives you flawless video, crystal clear audio, and instant sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
I'm an Iowa business owner. My dad gave me some advice 47 years ago when I left home. He says, when you move to a new town, you need to find 3 people. You need to find a good mechanic because you need your car working so that you can get to work. You need to find a doctor so that you can stay healthy. But most importantly, you need to find a good banker because it gets tough out there. We would not be here today if it wasn't for our bank. I love my Iowa bank.
More Iowans choose to bank with an Iowa bank. Get to know a real Iowa banker and discover the genuine difference of Iowa banks.
Mom, Dad, I'm getting married. That's wonderful, dear.
Congratulations. So have you decided on a date?
Yes, this Saturday. What? Are you serious? We need to plan. There's so much to do.
What about the church? The flowers, music, food, inviting everyone?
You would not want to be faced with those hurried decisions then. Why do that to your family with your own final arrangements? I invite you to sit down with us at Gunderson's to pre-plan your funeral. Pre-planning allows you to make thoughtful decisions with a clear mind. Give us a call at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I accept this gavel in the spirit of partnership, not partisanship. It's an historic moment for the Congress. It's an historic moment for the women of America.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Corner of 2nd Avenue North of 10th Street, right here in Fort Dodge. We keep hearing about a really big snowfall and a huge snowstorm that's coming. We didn't get it over the weekend, although it was kind of nasty. I don't know if we're going to get it this time either, but here we are anyway. But
I don't think so.
I wish the guys that come in here over the weekend would put everything back on this my little aircraft carrier here, my broadcast board. I wish they'd put that back the way they found it, because sometimes they don't, and it screws me up for several minutes. But I suppose I shouldn't be used to that. My guest today, of course, is Police Chief Roger Porter. How you doing, Roger?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I just thought I'd start the show off grumbling today because it seems to be what I'm doing best. But we do have nasty weather. We're in a period, and it's going to be pretty cold here.
Yeah, they're talking well below zero. Looks like coming up this Thursday, Friday. And
yeah, it does, and we might get some snow. You know, all the snow that we were supposed to get last weekend went north of us. So, but it was forecast for us to get 7 inches. I don't think we got 7 inches.
Oh, I don't think we had. I think we were supposed to get close to that this time, and it's all, I don't know which direction it's moving, but we're not getting it.
No. Well, there's still a winter storm watch, I think, until 6 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon. Or is it 6 o'clock? Where is that? Here's the weather forecast.
Yeah, still showing less than an inch though.
Just winter storm, winter weather advisory, and storm warning, not a watch, and chance of snow through, until tomorrow morning, I guess. Snow mainly before 5, patchy blowing snow after 5 o'clock. We'll see what happens. 40% chance of snow, they're saying now. So there we are. Anyway, I guess I ask you this every year. Is there anything the police department does any differently when there's bad weather like this approaching?
Just, we're being more cautious. We're, warning others to be more cautious when it's, you get the weather, the snow and the ice, and then you're going to cap that off with the cold. You don't want to be outside, especially when it's down below zero. I think they're talking 12, 13 below zero Thursday night, Friday morning, somewhere around there.
Well, that's my question. We have some people who still walk to the grocery store. I mean, is the police department more vigilant when the weather's like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been known to, offer people, if we see them and they look like they're not out there willingly or they might have took on a little bit more than they could bite off when they thought that they were just going to go for a short walk. We've been known to give them rides or help them out when we can, but just reminding the community, nights like that, stay inside. Animals, keep your animals inside when you can, and things like that. It's just it's too cold.
Yeah.
So,
way back in my younger days, I think I got a ticket for criminal mischief. I don't even exactly know where I did. I think me and some other kids egged windows or something. I think the charges was dismissed. I mean, we're talking so long ago I can hardly remember. But it was some silly kid stuff like that,
Yeah.
But what is criminal mischief anyway in the 2019 definition?
It's kind of like a theft. It's a destruction of property or damage of property, and then the mischief, whether it's 5th degree or 1st degree, depends on the dollar amount of the property that was destroyed or damaged. So, egging,
Well, what happened was we did egg some windows, and we may have soaped some windows as well. It was around Halloween time, and I think naturally we got caught.
Yeah.
We were really master criminals.
I suppose you could charge for the cost of the cleanup might be where the criminal mischief could.
Well, what happened was we got a summons, and in those days, the mayor was also the magistrate, and the mayor chewed us out. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and we had to go to the mayor's office with our parents, and the mayor dressed us down and dismissed the complaint, thinking that the parents would handle it, and they did. By the way, and they did. Maybe I told you this, but I asked a friend of mine. You would probably know him. I'm not going to say his name on air, but school teacher here at senior high. And I kind of related a story similar to that to him, and he smiled and shook his hand. Yeah, he knew what I was talking about. And I said, "What's the difference between that and kids today?" And he said, "All the kids have lawyers."
Yeah.
Then I got lawyers and fought the charge.
I'm like you. I think back in the day, I'd rather have gone in front of a judge than my dad.
I didn't. See, my dad had to take time off work, which is not a good thing. He was not happy. He was not happy to have to do that.
No.
So anyway, but that was punishment enough for being still a kid.
Yeah.
It's not like we were master criminals or anything like that. But anyway, I just want it's more like property damage, that sort of thing. You're
property,
talking about.
Yeah. Criminal mischief would be damaging property, or you get some during the holiday seasons where you get some kids that go out and damage Christmas lights or something. People have ornaments in their yard, and that would be a criminal mischief, or breaking a window or something. It's criminal mischief unless there's other intent behind it. But
You know, speaking of that sort of thing, I may have told you this before, but 25 years ago, I had a Lincoln Continental with a hood ornament. And I came out one day and it was gone. Well, apparently at the time, a Cadillac and Lincoln hood ornaments were in demand over at Fort Dodge Senior High School.
Oh, yeah.
And they were wearing them in chains around their neck. Well, of course, I reported it and made an insurance claim. And it was about $80. Well, no sooner did I do that than the police called to say that they had arrested 3 kids who had 80 of those things. Yeah. And every one of them was $75 to $100 to replace, and the parents had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know the time you're talking about. I mean, you're talking about the time when I was in high school, because I remember kids stealing those things or having those things at school and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, I can just, unfortunately, it never happened to me. But if the police would have said, well, you're responsible for 30 or 40 ornaments at $100 a piece, I'd have fallen right off, wouldn't you? Did we had some, and you and I talked about it in the past, we had some cases up in my neighborhood, as a matter of fact, where there were cars being broken into.
Yeah, actually.
Did we ever get the culprits? Or
we made some arrests in that. We actually still have one of our detectives is still working a number of open cases on that one, and hopefully looking at possibly charging some more charges on that, some more individuals as well. So, I mean, they're still working on a bunch of those, because those were, you talk about your neighborhood, but they were actually happening all over town.
They were.
They were hitting certain neighborhoods on certain nights, and then they go to other areas and hit those. And like I said, we've got a detective that's working on those right now, and he's been doing a really good job on that. So, because we had to make a couple of arrests in that already. So
there was about 3 of them in my neighborhood, but you're right. They went over on the other side of 15th Street, and
they were all over north, south, east, and west. They weren't being discriminatory by any means. They were hitting all over.
Well, I don't think, do people keep that many valuable things in their car?
And really, there wasn't once in a while they'd get in there and we'd have a couple things that were of value. But
I have some CDs on the floor.
Yeah, I think for the most part, they were rifling. They weren't breaking into them in the typical means of breaking a window or something, trying to get into them. They were looking for unlocked cars. So they go up and check the handles, and if the door was unlocked, they'd go through and rifle through and get what they can. A lot of people coming out missing change and stuff like that, and didn't want to make a report. We always encourage them to call anyway, just so we know where they're at in town. If people don't call, and even if they just got rifled through and took some change and the person doesn't want to make a report, if we don't know that it happened, then it's hard for us to concentrate our efforts in certain areas of the town if we don't know what's happening there. So we encourage anybody that, at least call. Even if you don't want to make a file a report, we can at least still document it in our system so we can pass it on to the officers. It was more than just one that was here. We had 4 others that didn't want to make a report because nothing was stolen. They don't have anything of value in their car, and it just was rifled through. So,
what should older people do when the weather's like this? I mean, and they don't have access to an automobile, or they do have access to an automobile, but it freaks them out to drive it. I mean, is there a place where they can go to get assistance with that? Or I don't want to put it on the police department. That's really not the police department's job. Do you know of any services or churches that help folks like that?
I do know, to sit here and name exactly who's doing that. I know that there are some services out there, and I would love to give you that information. So what I'd probably do is go back and kind of research it a little bit and shoot you an email with what they have, so you could maybe put it out on the air. But
I'd be happy to.
I know there's some churches that go out and assist people, bring them dinners and things like that, so they don't have to venture out into things like this. And I'm sure there's some other groups out there that are also be more than willing to help, and maybe even have some advertisement out there somewhere. But to sit here and name them off the top of my head, I'd be more than happy to go back and check into a couple things and let you know.
That's fine. I just, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, and I'm going to be an older person myself. I'm not quite to the point where I need assistance. I can still get around, of course.
It's nice when like the old days, you kind of looked out for each other.
That's right.
And there are still neighborhoods like that, and I think a lot of people still do that. It's just, it's kind of maybe bringing it to the point now. When it is cold out, look out for your neighbors, especially the elderly, or that might be living alone, or you never know what's happening. The furnace might go down next door or something.
That's right.
And or just need a ride to the grocery store or something when it's 12 below zero out, and just kind of look out for one another and help each other out.
Well, the city manager's coming in at 4 this afternoon, David Ferg.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when we first switched over to the big canisters that the garbage trucks lifted up by mechanical arm, there was a little concern at the time that maybe older people would have trouble getting them out to the curb. I think I'll ask if
I'll ask him, but I think they got some smaller ones for those that requested it. They're
really?
A little bit smaller than. I mean, I fill mine up. I have a family of 5 and
Yeah,
kids,
sure.
so I fill mine up with no problem. Sometimes I'm asking my neighbor, "Hey, can I throw some stuff in yours because mine's full?" But I can totally see where that big can for one person, it might take them a while to fill that up, and they don't need that stuff. So
I got to remember when I get home tonight. Tomorrow's my recycling day. Tomorrow is my recycling day.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you have a question or comment for Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter, 515-955-1400. I've been meaning to ask you this for weeks, and I keep forgetting. About a year ago already, on YouTube, and this caused a big sensation down in Des Moines Television News. We had some kids who were brandishing, very young kids, 14, 15 years old, and they were holding big wads of money and guns, and they were talking about being gangsters. You remember the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened as a result of that? Was there any crime committed by these kids doing that, or not?
It was investigated, and to sit here and tell you exactly what transpired on all that off the top of my head after something that happened a year ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
So, I mean, I know we've had a couple of incidences like that where kids have been charged with that. We've also had
What would they be charged with? It was gross to look at.
It's not going to just be like that one's, there has to be a lot more investigation into it rather above and beyond just what you see on Facebook or the videos that were posted, because you can't go rely just on that. I mean, one thing, how old are those videos on a lot of them? You don't know whether they're just happened last week or it happened a year ago. I mean, sure, you can tell by maybe some of the ages of the kids and what they look like now compared to then. Who posted it? You're talking about guns. You got to prove that, are those guns real or are they BB guns? I mean, it's very hard to tell anymore. I mean, we've got some guns that we've taken off of people that are airsoft guns or BB guns. And I tell you what, if you're looking at them from even somebody that's trained to know what a gun is, it's hard to tell whether they're real or fake.
And every now and then you hear a terrible story of a police officer who he confronts a suspect. The suspect points a gun at him. The officer fires and sometimes kills the guy with a gun, and it turns out to be a BB gun or even a replica. And I'm going, I guess we'll never be able to ask the person what the hell they were thinking there.
And there's a lot more reports around, even here when you hear somebody with a gun or something, if you hear that on the scanner, there's a lot of times where it is a BB gun or an airsoft gun that the officer finds on the suspect or the person that was called in about. So, I mean, it's not uncommon. Happens a lot.
Then if the police officer wants to shoot, I suppose everybody has to shoot. Well, everybody wants to jump on him or her, I suppose.
Can't think of a police officer that wants to shoot.
Oh, no.
It's kind of one of those things, kind of like, we train a lot for active shooter stuff. And it's one of those things where you hope you train for and you're very proficient at, but you hope you never, ever have to use it other than in a training scenario. You don't ever have to go train, to go do that stuff.
No, absolutely not. No.
Scary thing.
Who'd want to, you're right. Who would want to do that? I mean, we've had a couple of ugly incidents here. I don't know if the Fort Dodge police were directly involved, but I mean, there was a highway patrolman and Calhoun County deputy that had to shoot a man not long ago. And I mean, they had to. I mean, he apparently had an assault rifle, was firing at the officers. What are you going to do? Man had a lot of mental health problems. I think this is the Moreland incident is what I'm thinking of. And I mean, that's not something.
It's a sad deal all around.
Well, but the officers, fortunately, the officers had the training or the discipline to do what had to be done to save their lives. I mean, if they wouldn't have, what would have happened? Something even worse, something more terrible. I mean, he might have got away and shot other people. I mean, this is a bad thing. Yep. It's a bad thing.
It's bad all around. So.
Roger Porter is our guest, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I was going to ask you one more thing. We covered the criminal mischief thing. Oh, what's the definition, or what is the difference between assault and battery? Is assault when you put your hands on somebody and battery something else? Or?
No, it's in the legal code. I mean, that's just terminology that people use. But in the legal code, it's an assault, and then there's also varying degrees of assault, and then aggravated and serious misdemeanor assault, serious. And it just depends on the injury and what transpired. To go from one level to the next level. So you go simple assault, serious assault, aggravated assault.
Right up the line, huh?
Right on up the line, yeah. So,
and willful injury, is that a felony
injury, or? Yeah, felony.
Is that the old felonious assault? Is that We used to have felonious assault. Is that willful injury? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what the definition of felonious assault.
Felonious assault was something where
felony.
if you got out of club and hit somebody and put them in the hospital,
Yeah,
that was felonious.
That would be a willful injury.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see somebody that might be, depending on what the circumstances of the situation are and the evidence and how it transpired and what their involvement is. But, there's been people that have been stabbed or shot charged with willful injury as opposed to anything more, because they may have been more directly involved in the crime than not just so much a victimless crime. They might have been involved in it somehow, or it just kind of depends on to say one thing is, to say every stabbing is going to be an attempted murder or a murder. It's all depends on the situation and the facts that you have at hand. So, and that's with every crime.
All right, Roger, thanks for coming in.
You bet, Mike.
Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter's been our guest. It's 2:28.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Can I ask you something, but without you taking it the wrong way?
Sure.
Are you stupid?
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Yeah, right. 2:28, of course, 28 minutes after 2 o'clock. News, weather, the obituaries, and a market update coming up. Of course, Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau also on the way. This Divine Intervention continues at AM 1400 KVFD.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes. And you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only. Offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
Here's a look at the midday markets. March corn is down 2 1/4 cents at 379.5. May is down 2 1/4 at 387 3/4. July is down 2 cents at 395.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing her proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time in any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The 2 people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word on their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 2:32, and the weather, first of all, snow a little bit before 5 o'clock, then blowing snow after 5 o'clock. Our high temperature today will be 25 degrees, but wind chill factor temperatures will be 0 or below. Overnight, good chance of snow, blowing snow, all that sort of thing. Overnight, be aware of that if you have to drive later this evening. Our wind chill factor temperatures will be 10 degrees below 0 or more. So if you're going to drive, keep that in mind. Again, keep a blanket and all those things in your car. Tomorrow is sunny with a high of 19. Wind chill factor temperatures way down there, maybe 20 below. Really strong wind, maybe up to 25, 30 miles an hour. On Thursday, again, patchy blowing snow, sunny and cold with a high of 8. Wind chill factor temperatures 5 to 10 below. On Friday, chance of snow, sunny and cold, high of 7. Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high of 14. Sunday, cloudy with a high of 23. And Monday, mostly cloudy with a high of 12. Those of you waiting for winter or saying, when's winter going to be here? It's here. Right now, it's 22 degrees with a little light snow in the area. Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau is in the room with me. He just mentioned that it's snowing pretty good down in the southern part of the county. So we'll talk with Steve about that in just a couple of minutes. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Joe Kirby has died. Joseph Kirby has passed away. Funeral services for Joe Kirby will be Friday the 25th at the Sacred Heart Church here in town with Father Patrick Boehm officiating. Bonnie Kitterman of Webster City has died at the age of 87. Services for Bonnie Kitterman will be held at a later date. Dwayne Tilges has died at the age of 75. His service was today at 10 o'clock this morning. And Margaret Semperini has died at the age of 99. Her funeral will be Monday. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 2 3/4 at $3.79. May down 2 3/4 at $3.87 1/4. July down 2 1/4 at $3.95. September down 2 3/4 at $3.97. March soybeans down 7 1/2 at $9.09 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at $9.22 3/4. July down 6 3/4 at $9.35 3/4. August down 6 1/2 at $9.41. March wheat closed up 3 1/2 at $5.21 1/4. Soybean meal down $2.10 a ton at $3.13. February live cattle down $1.40 at $125.12. April down $1.30 at $126.07. January feeder cattle down 40 cents at $141.05. March down $1.32 at $141.50. February lean hogs up 1/4 at $61.47. April down 17 cents at $66.10. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
Now, get a $50 credit to give your first job posting premium placement at Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, quality standards, and usage limits apply. Additional terms online.
Ever wanted to speak another language? Babbel can get you confidently speaking Spanish, French, or German within weeks.
I just started learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's really helping my pronunciation.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas? Haha, I got it. I wish I had tried Babbel sooner.
See why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com to try for free.
Current price times 1,000 acres, carry the one. These days, it's hard to make the math work for your soybean fields. The BASF Liberty Link system with Liberty herbicide makes it easier. Start with a 2+ bushel per acre yield advantage. Add in lower system input costs and more complete weed control, and you get an extra $33 or more of profit potential per acre compared to Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans. Grow smart with Liberty Link and BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
I'm an Iowa business owner. My dad gave me some advice 47 years ago when I left home. He says, when you move to a new town, you need to find 3 people. You need to find a good mechanic because you need your car working so that you can get to work. You need to find a doctor so that you can stay healthy. But most importantly, you need to find a good banker because it gets tough out there. We would not be here today if it wasn't for our bank. I love my Iowa bank.
More Iowans choose to bank with an Iowa bank. Get to know a real Iowa banker and discover the genuine difference of Iowa banks.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, hip hop right here we go. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, it's a cold day. I don't know how much snow we're really going to get. The weatherman, that would be me sometimes, keeps crying wolf about all the bad weather we're supposed to get. And maybe we will get a lot of snow. To bring us more on that information is Steve Peterson, who is with the Webster County Farm Bureau. And by the way, this part of the program is brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. You say there's more snow down south.
It was snowing pretty good when I came into town in the southern part of the county.
Part. It was snowing pretty good.
Yeah, it was. But it kind of let off when I got to Highway 20, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe that's going to come this way or going south. I guess I'm really not sure which way it's moving. So.
Well, it was Armageddon last weekend, and it all stuck up on the top 2 tiers of counties in the state. And
yeah, I think the only winner last week was the grocery stores.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about that off mic. Yeah, I went out to Hy-Vee Thursday night, man, and it was wall to wall.
Good for them, I guess. But,
good for them.
Yeah. So that was kind of they cried wolf on that one, and it didn't amount to anything. But I guess I'll take that. And but we're due to get something eventually.
I will tell you, in the early 1980s, I was on the air in the evening, about 7:00 in the evening, and the weather forecast was just a normal old winter weather forecast. Overnight low is going to be 7, high tomorrow is 16. No precipitation in the forecast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at KICD radio station up in Spencer. Well, later in the evening, while I was still there, an unusual phenomena happened. A jet stream fell out of the sky, essentially, and it was a terrible blizzard through the Dakotas, Minnesota, and northern Iowa. And several people were killed. They were caught out in the storm. And a lot of political figures and a lot of folks were furious with the National Weather Service for not catching it. And the National Weather Service, this is somebody who's been around radio a long time, changed after that.
It did. But, this year's weather, I guess what we're seeing now is no different than what I went through as a farmer this summer. I had some of my biggest rains when nothing was forecasted.
Yeah.
So little inconsistencies. And, I know they have all the technology in the world, the models and this and that, but Mother Nature sometimes throws a curveball, and that kind of seems what happened last week. And, we'll one of these times we'll catch a big one. And
that's right.
Of course, we're after the first of the year. We're starting to think about spring. You know, I mean, it is a little ways off yet, but ultimately
Not that much, really.
We do need now. Snow is not very effective for moisture or whatnot because, of course, the ground's frozen and whatnot. And I kind of the rule of thumb I've always went by is 12 inches of snow is about an inch of water.
Yeah.
And but we're gonna start looking at unfortunately, as wet as we had last year and in the fall and whatnot, we need a certain amount of moisture going into the spring, and so it's going to be how the spring plays out. And I know
let me ask you something. We had such a wet year last year.
Yep.
And we had plenty of snow in the winter, and then we had
a spring or a winter that wouldn't it hung on till the very last.
Oh, we had 3 snowstorms between April 1st and the 15th.
Yes.
We had 2-3 inches every time, plenty of cold. And then we had cold, wet weather after that.
Yes, we did.
And we had kind of a cold, wet year. I mean, the harvest was lousy.
That's probably, I would say, most farmers' worst nightmare going into this year, because the way the weather and the harvest and all the delays we had last fall, there was a tremendous amount of anhydrous ammonia, which is a nitrogen fertilizer that we do fall applications on, or a large percentage goes fall. It didn't get applied. And it's not the same for all parts of Iowa, but here in central Iowa, you hear kind of conservative reports that maybe only 15% got put on. Well, we're really not geared or tooled up in the industry here to provide 85% of the anhydrous ammonia needs in the spring alone. I mean, the production, the equipment, and the window. I mean, it's going to take, I guess, in a perfect world, we're going to need a very open March to get some of this work done that was not done last fall. So, those cards are yet to be played. If we do not have a good window in March or early spring, I guess, it could really kind of put a lot of people behind the 8 ball as far as getting things timely done and because we're all at Mother Nature's mercy as far as what can get done and what we can do. But there's a tremendous amount of equipment and efficiencies and stuff like that, and farmers will work around the clock. But we do have to have certain conditions to do that.
Well, that's exactly where I was going with my line of questioning. Last year was so lousy as far as weather conditions. What is the carryover effect of this year? I mean,
time will tell.
And it can be all different. This course it can be all different. It can be just perfect this year, or it can be lousy.
I couldn't tell you what normal even is anymore, because it's so different. And historically, we like to, you always hear things referenced back to like the way beyond my time, the weather of 1936, because that seemed to be I think an extreme drought and also an extreme winter, kind of both cases. And I believe it was the floods in 93. That was a wet
that was
year.
A bad year.
And so these,
but the year after the floods of 93, we had one of the best springs ever. I mean, April was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool, a little rain every now and then, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
And it was just great, but you never.
So like I said, if we have a spring like we did last year, where winter just didn't really give up till mid to end of April, it could be very, very challenging for timely applications of nutrients and planting, because they're also, once you, like if you use anhydrous ammonia, there's supposed to be roughly a window between that application and planting. Otherwise, when the seeds germinate, it can burn the roots. So there's a chemical transformation process where it converts into a usable nitrogen for the plants, and that gets kind of technical. And I think there was still some manure too that didn't get applied. Fields might have been too wet or whatnot for various reasons. And I think dry applications went on pretty good. That equipment's usually the big floater tires, and they can do that. But it's going to be a challenging spring, pending kind of what March we have. And that's yet. It's going to be here before we know it. But
What do you use? Do you use manure or just the hydrogen? Or
I use all
anhydrous, or-
I use all commercial on my I don't have
Yeah.
any livestock, so
Well, some of the places sell it. I mean,
sure they do. But on my farm, I do a fall anhydrous ammonia with a nitrogen stabilizer, and then I come in the spring and I do a pre-plant small dose of liquid 32% nitrogen. That's kind of used as a starter, and then depending on what kind of year we have, I might do some nitrate tests, and you could bring a side dress into that operation too, depending on where your level's at or the environmental. So you have abilities to adjust, I guess, in my program. And then the phosphorus and potassium, that's all commercial, mined products. So I'm just pretty much a commercial operation. There's various people I know. I've got neighbors all around me. They've got either they have buildings or they have agreements, because the buildings they have to have manure management plans put together. So you have to have enough acres to adequately apply the product out of those buildings, and that's why sometimes I know some urban people sometimes question the siting of these buildings. Well, they can't transmit the manure logistic wise very long distances, so that's sometimes why these buildings they don't look like they're in feasible places. I know everyone would love the operators to have them in their backyard, but you physically can't put them there because there's not enough acres to apply the manure, and that's a very regulated, and it has to be pre-approved and tested, and it's a very systematic approach.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it's more than just let's put a building here, and sometimes then they'll work deals out with adjacent farms and whatnot to get those acres to be able to use to apply, and so it's a big process and a lot of regulations involved in it. So your smaller, older, operations, I think a lot of people would remember is I don't know how many days I'd fill the old manure spreader with the pitchfork, and you'd go out and spread a small path, and that still goes on a little bit, but you're not as regulated as the commercial operators are today.
I don't know if you mentioned it earlier or not, but Representative Scrappy is texting me, Mike Sexton.
Yep.
And tells us that the Pork Congress starts tomorrow in Des Moines.
It does.
Yes, and we, our friend Greg Horrell will be down there, of course. And boy, that guy's busy.
Yeah. It's the 23rd and 24th. It's at the Iowa Event Center, and if you want to learn about pork, I mean, they're all the players are.
Boy, aren't they?
I've got
a catalog. I remember the pork producers too.
I've got a friend, and she works for a company that does like feed allocation software, and I mean, there's just everybody's there, and it's basically a pork trade show, for lack of better terms. But I'm sure you could find something to eat down there too. Pork producers aren't going to leave you hungry.
As we talked about this off mic, but Greg and the pork producers usually have me down there at State Fair doing a live broadcast, and the pork just comes, over and over, different kinds of what did they have? They had something new. It was like a long strip of bacon or something. That,
and
there's always something.
And the pork producers, part of their responsibility or what they're trying to do too is to teach the public and the consumer side of things how to utilize a lot of these cuts of meat, and because pork is a very good value for the protein as it is in a diet, and so they have lots of examples and exhibits of different techniques and some new things, and they're always I think developing and marketing pork is a very affordable protein in consumers' diets. So
yes, absolutely.
But there's if you want to know anything about pigs, I'd say that's the place to be this week.
I heard not long ago that there are those who believe in an all-vegetarian diet. Well, as pork producers noted, in this particular case, there is so much more protein in pork, pork, and in beef too. But to eat to get a commensurate level of protein in your diet, if you were just eating vegetables, you'd have to take in quite a few calories and eat a lot more food because there's just not that much protein in vegetables. Yeah. So those who want to, and there are these animal rights people, and I can kind of see the judge's point when he stopped that ag-gag rule. But by the same token, these people who are doing these things, these who are now advertising in the Des Moines Register and under in other papers to infiltrate, as they call it, commercial hog producing plants or chickens or whatever. Those people are not interested necessarily in poor treatment of animals.
Right.
They want to stop meat consumption in the United States. They're a radical fringe.
Yeah,
and I don't know if a radical fringe is something that should be allowed to harm the pork industry or chicken or whatever.
And we talked about that last week is that the ag-gag law, as it's referred to in Iowa, at its core, there's kind of two sides to it. The core of it is that there needed to be, or we felt there needed to be, some protections against producers for people that were fraudulently trying to gain access with an agenda, basically. That's what it really is. Now it's kind of being hashed out as far as freedom of speech and on some of that basis, but the core value of it was to give some protection, because unfortunately I think anyone could get into almost any operation, and if they wanted to skew an opinion or give some bad press, you could get into an operation. So there was, a little bit of trying to give some protection to the producers. I believe here you had, I believe it was Mr. Sexton and Crime Brink and Ann Meyer here a while back. They toured a farrowing facility.
Yeah, they did. I wish I would have gone along.
Over by Storm Lake.
Yeah,
and I believe their comments were they could not get over how the treatment of the animals. And
they raved about it. Yeah,
so there's that's highly regarded in the industry, and I would think that even in the harvest of those animals in a facility in the other extreme, like we're going to have in Eagle Grove, is also going to be, the animals' welfare and in a humane way to harvest those animals is important to them. So to get someone in there with a direct their intention with bad intentions is what that's really trying to protect. And,
yeah,
and maybe
they're not in there trying to help anybody.
No, they're going in with an agenda and deliberately or falsifying their to prove that point. And maybe that's really what the basis of the law is. And I guess in the court system, if it does infringe on some rights, maybe some of that language needs to be changed so it doesn't.
Well, we have Representative Scrapster listening. Maybe we could figure out language that is acceptable to the lords and masters down at the Supreme Court.
Well, I think it's probably going to have to work its way through the courts before that can be addressed. But I think the intent is just and good, but it's important to uphold the rights too.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not saying it.
So there's got to be a balance and intention there, I think, is what's going to go on.
Well, yeah, I'm just opposed to a small group of pretty unattractive people with, as you say, bad intentions affecting the livelihood of a lot of decent people, frankly.
Sure.
And getting in the way of my pork, by the way.
But also there are, occasionally, and you'll see the news, sometimes there's some bad actors.
There are.
And they need to be held accountable too for their actions. So, there's everyone needs to be upheld to, a pretty high standard.
Yes.
And, but we'll see how that works through the courts and maybe there'll be some adjustment to however it works through the courts. I think that's up to speculation right now.
Well, I plan on having either Representative Sexton or Senator Kreinbrink, Representative Meyer, both, or excuse me, all three, or whoever's coming on Friday. Somebody's usually pretty good about showing up. I'll certainly bring this up to them. Because again, I know what the judge's thinking is. I understand it. It's not that I disagree with it entirely, But you're right. I think we need to have some protections on the other end too.
Yeah, but I think the judge is really just looking at is the freedom of speech being infringed on, and
That's right.
and it's a very narrow scope of that interpretation of that part of the law.
That's right.
So, but for a little background on kind of what the law encompassed, that's what it's really was for, and so I mean I agree with the intent of the law, but until the courts kind of rule. Goes through the laundry, I guess. We
goes through the laundry.
We don't really know, I guess, where the state legislators will be left with, and maybe they won't. There won't be anything to do, and they'll feel it's fine too. So there's a lot of interpretations through it. So
you want to come Friday? We'll browbeat him into doing something.
Oh, I probably think it's probably a little early for them to make any.
It's only the second full week coming up.
Well, yeah, and of course the courts haven't even come out with their full opinions of everything yet, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's going to be appealed, and it's going to be a process to work that through. So we probably won't even know any language till probably next year at earliest. So the way I understand it's just kind of being held right now. So,
well, that's something should be able to be worked out, I would think.
Yeah,
but I mean, really, and I've said this several times on the air. What pork producer would look at a video of one of his or her employees throwing a pig against a wall or stomping an animal to death and not fire them on the spot?
Sure.
I mean, that's profits. That's money out the door for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's somebody who is stupid and mean. And
Yes.
nobody really wants them on the job anyway.
Yes, and just like when we had pigs when I was growing up, we used the old pen system and had to have all the boards. I mean, the sows some of them were not very good mothers to their pigs.
Well, as Bill Horan said many times, the reason we got those crates in the first place was protection of the baby pigs,
right?
Because the sows would roll over on them and kill them, or even kill the little pigs.
And what as a farm kid that grew up, and I've seen some of those videos. What's kind of astonishing to me is they almost make you believe the sow lives in that its whole life.
That's exactly the idea.
And it's not. It's just for a small set of time, after they have the pigs and they're nursing the pigs till they get big enough, and it's for the little pigs' protection, really.
That's exactly what it's for.
But they actually they kind of misconceive that, like the animal just is confined to that cage for its life, and it's just for a small set of time until the pigs can get going on their own and get weaned. So an Iowa guy or girl that's growing up on the farm probably would realize that, but to the coastal people and the other people, they don't understand that. So that's a little, I think, misconception that some of those arguments give.
Well, I told you this, and I said it on the radio a few times around the Farm Progress Show last August. I was listening to my satellite radio, listening to some younger people, I think on the left coast out in California. And somebody asked what people in the Midwest did with their grain. Oh, they feed it to their animals primarily so they can slaughter the animals. And they were just horrified at the idea that we would do such a thing.
Yeah.
And then they probably went off and had a cheeseburger. we got to go. It's Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau is here, and he'll be back at 3:00 in the afternoon.
If you're into cars or just want to learn a thing or two, tune in every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 for the Under the Hood Car Show on AM 1400 KVFD.
Wall Street goes back to worrying. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. The Dow down 306 points just after the closing bell. That's down more than 1%, but it had been down over 400. First trading day after a long weekend. Continued concern about global economic growth, getting much of the blame after China reported its slowest growth in nearly 3 decades.
When the world's second biggest economy gets a cold, everybody feels pretty lousy. That's what's going on here. China's growth, 6.6%. That may sound good to you, but it's lousy for China, whose long-term average is something like 10%.
Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis at the New York Stock Exchange. Thousands of federal workers still living without pay as each side in Washington accuses the other of playing politics on day 32 of the partial government shutdown. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
The Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has set up a vote later this week on legislation that mirrors President Trump's proposal to end the shutdown. It provides $5.7 billion in border wall funding.
It's a strong proposal.
You got to go.
The
It's
only thing on the table.
And the measure would extend deportation protection to DACA recipients and immigrants fleeing disaster and war for 3 years and provide some disaster relief funding. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says it's not a good faith offer.
The president's proposal is one-sided, harshly partisan.
Thursday, the Senate will take procedural votes now on two proposals, the president's plan and a short-term spending bill already approved by the Democratic-controlled House. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. And again, on Wall Street, the numbers still settling. The Dow down just under 300 points now, down 298. Some breaking news out of Boston. Late word that a young woman who's been missing since leaving a bar on Saturday night has been found alive. Police have scheduled a news conference 2 hours from now. This is Fox News.
This is Stacy on her motorcycle.
What an incredible view!
And this is Stacy off her motorcycle.
Does this have sucralose in it?
On her motorcycle.
Oh, the wind in my hair!
Off her motorcycle.
It's pronounced et cetera, not etc.
On.
Woohoo! Yes!
Off.
No.
You're better on your bike. And with basic policy starting at $75 a year, quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
36 days. That's how long it takes the average company to find their next hire. Glassdoor can help you quickly find the right job candidate in half the resumes. From 62 million job seekers, Glassdoor only matches you with qualified candidates who have the skills and experience your small business needs to grow. And Glassdoor hires are committed. They're 30% more likely to stay with your business longer. Go to glassdoor.com/hire. Glassdoor. Find the right fit for your business.
Supreme Court says President Trump's planned limits on transgender service in the military can be implemented while the court fight over the changes continues. Still in lower courts for now. The ruling was 5-4.
In a statement, a Pentagon spokesperson said, quote, "It is critical that DoD be permitted to implement personnel policies that it determines are necessary to ensure the most lethal and combat-effective fighting force in the world. DoD's proposed policy is based on professional military judgment." Pentagon officials say nothing has officially changed. Yet, the military will continue to operate under policies put in place during the Obama administration. But today's court ruling allows the Trump administration to go through with plans to restrict military service in the future by transgender men and women.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the Pentagon. Opponents argue the new policy amounts to discrimination. The Supreme Court today also took no action on the Trump administration's request to review the DACA program that shields immigrants brought here illegally as children from deportation. The president has argued that former President Obama overstepped his authority with that program, but lower courts have left it in place. And for now, the highest court is not putting that fight on a fast track. The Clintons have another grandchild on the way.
Congratulations pouring in for former first daughter Chelsea Clinton, who revealed on Twitter she and her husband, Mark Mazvinsky, are expecting their third child. Posting, "Mark and I have loved watching Charlotte be such a wonderful big sister, and we are excited to watch Aiden become a big brother. We cannot wait to meet our newest addition later this summer." The couple have a 4-year-old daughter named Charlotte and a 2-year-old son named Aiden. Clinton later noted her parents are thrilled to be welcoming another grandchild.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin recapping the sell-off on Wall Street. A 4-day winning streak snapped. The Dow down 301. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing a proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time and any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word on their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October, but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down, knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. High temperatures reach up to 25 this afternoon under cloudy skies with snow likely. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Chance of snow again tonight, 7 above. High of 19 tomorrow. 4 to 8 inches of snow today through tonight. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 22.
We stand for people, progress and pride. Iowa Farm Bureau's by your side.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in Iowa's future. We support Iowa's youth, encourage ag innovations, and nurture new business opportunities in rural communities. We're a century strong and growing. To learn more, contact your local county farm bureau.
In farming, getting things done early has a way of setting you up for success, like using Corvus for an early season win over weeds. Corvus keeps even the toughest weeds from gaining a foothold. Multiple sites of action deliver superior control of emerged weeds. And later, Corvus reactivates with just a ½ inch of rain to take out any new weeds that may have sprouted. So get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards. Always read and follow label instructions. Corvus is a restricted use pesticide.
Take the worry out of winter with a winter weather advisor on KVFD, brought to you by Community Health Center Fort Dodge, offering dental, behavioral health, and general medical assistance for men, women, and children. They're committed to your well-being. Community Health Center. Get to know them. And Creative Cakes, making life sweet with espresso, lunch, gourmet cupcakes, and other sweet treats. Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge. They make life sweet. Listen for the winter weather advisor on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, that's what they say. I'm a little sneaky, but I'm right. Oh, wait, I said that. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. With us is Steve Peterson, who's with the Webster County Farm Bureau. By the way, this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. We're talking, what a surprise, about farming in Iowa. And we need to talk a little bit or get an update about these trade talks that seem to be going on forever. and this trade war that seems to be going on forever. And now we've thrown in this government shutdown. What are we doing here, Steve? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you.
Well, I don't know about that, but the shutdown, of course, the talks seem to be pretty frustrating. Looking on the sidelines at that. The USDA has they've opened up the FSA office, which are basically what are our farmers. We do business for crop reporting and insurance requirements with the government. So they did open those up here for, I think today's the last day, but about 3 days. And that was just to kind of allow farmers to catch up on some of their business. And also you got to realize there's a lot of things that were in the mail too. And so to give for those offices to open up some mail and so we got to see a little glimpse of that. But, big picture, I think everyone's still, I don't know if patiently waiting is the right word to use right now, but, there's some, they've extended the market facilitation payments. That's, for lack of better terms, that's the money that was allocated to try to offset some of the market losses for the China trade dispute. And some people had the paperwork in and have gotten their payments. Some wanted to defer those payments into this year, or in fact, just some of them in some parts of the country are just getting done harvesting too. That you still hear of some of that going on. So there's some guys that want to get those processes, and frankly, it's a fairly big chunk of financials to get going, either to close up last year's business or to get going on this year's business too. So, I don't know where we're going to go at. It sure doesn't seem like there's much of an end in sight.
There really does. I mean, the trade war thing has gone on so long, we actually stopped talking about it.
Yeah. The Chinese are supposed to, I think, can be in Washington again next week. And some, you hear some of them say we got things going really good. One of the last kind of, and again, it's kind of, I think, who you listen to, who your news is from, but I don't know that the grain side of things and the animal side of things, the food component of it is really that much in dispute right now. It's mostly on intellectual property and more of the corporate structures. I think is probably the bigger sticking point.
And I have heard that the Chinese economy is suffering. I was watching Fox Business Report this morning. Yes, I said Fox Business Report. And the Chinese economy, as a matter of fact, the world economy has slowed down mainly because of this trade war, with China suffering probably more than we are right now.
And that's kind of what we're hearing too. But again, it's hard to get. It is still a communist country, and
it is a communist country.
So it's hard to get a good grasp of what is factual and is the information correct.
And by the way, the penalty for failure in China is a little more severe than it is here in this country. They lose face, the leaders might get executed. Now, that's a very powerful motive.
Sure.
Oh, I could be killed if this doesn't go my way. Oh, well, I better stick to my guns then.
But, I'm still hopeful that we're at the end of the day, when we come out of this, we're going to be in a better place than we were as far as agriculture. But I don't know that agriculture is really the big sticking point right now. I think it's
Not
more
now.
I think it's more in the, like I said, the intellectual property and some of the theft and patent infringements and some of that stuff. That's
agriculture was always more of a weapon.
Yes, they've weaponized food, basically.
Yes, they have. That's exactly what they've done.
And so hopefully we will get to a resolve. I think there is some motivation on both sides to do so. And like I said, you hear some, I think the Chinese are coming here to Washington here in the next few weeks. And there was kind of a bump up in the market last week when there was some progress reported in the deal. But it's that, again, with the government shutdown, we're not getting our reports either. So we don't necessarily have a clear idea who's buying, goods and whatnot either. So that's kind of making things a little murky, or kind of leads it up to interpretation, I guess. So,
okay.
I would love to see the government open up. I'd love to see the trade deals get done. I'm sure down at the Port Congress, that is a topic that you could find in any booth is the tariffs and what that means for especially pork.
There is out in California and in New York, the coastal elites, let's put a name on them. They're the coastal elites. They really think Trump is the devil. They really have, they have decided this is the most important crusade of their life, to hobble Trump until he's out of office, to drive him out of office, or deprive him of being reelected in 2020. They think it's a matter of national security. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're nuts. I mean, they really are off the beam, and they're a little worried they don't have anybody to beat him in 2020.
Yeah, well, it's that's gonna. I'm sure we're gonna get our fill. This is gonna be the longest 2 years of election.
Oh God! Now Kamala Harris is in this, and Kamala seems to be a very interesting person, but what a big mouth. And of course, we have Elizabeth Warren. We need somebody who, on the Democratic Party side, who seems reasonable and wants to improve the economy, rather than change the way we feel about transgender rights. Mm-hmm. Okay? You want to do transgender rights, do it some other time, because we need the economy humming, and we need you to tell us how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you insist on being in charge of the economy, and they do, well, how's it going to happen then?
Sure. But, part of the, also that's affecting ag, another big thing that really kind of got lost in the smoke, I guess, is, the announcement trying to go to year-round E15. That was
there's another thing.
That's a huge move, and we're hoping that isn't getting snowballed during this. We hope it's still going forward, and they were going to make the rules and have the whole process to go through that. But an Iowa report just came out. We made 150 million more gallons of ethanol this year than the year before, and we are almost at full capacity, and it's like 4.35 billion gallons, and that's almost as much as we can make. So E15, going from 10% to 15%, well, that's a huge, another 5%. That's a big thing.
Well, we have Senator Ted Cruz and Senator John Cronin from Texas, who are around the president a lot. I believe Senator Cruz threw Steve King under the bus here recently. Steve King was his most ardent supporter in Iowa when he was running for president.
Right.
And Senator Cruz has been repaying Iowa by kicking us in the teeth.
Senator Cruz was no friend to Iowa, if we have much of a memory, last spring, because he held up Bill Northey for quite some time over ethanol and his petroleum allies.
That's
in
exactly
Texas.
right.
So,
they didn't want to. The refiners were getting that
waivers.
We're getting the waivers, and they didn't want to give those up, even though the whole waiver thing turned out to be nothing but a big scam as a way to get around ethanol.
Yes, that's essentially what it was. And I mean, to kind of lead into that, last week the American Farm Bureau had its national convention down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that was, we kind of lose sight at Iowa. We come up with a lot of policies and through our process in our state, and so does every other state in the country. So you have 50 states now, instead of, in Iowa, we have 100 or 99 counties get together. You go to the national level, all those states bring their ideas that came from their state level. And Iowa miraculously is very successful at the national level, introducing policies and getting the other states to sign on to them. Iowa did bring language into our Farm Bureau policy, I believe, that was adopted and passed at the national level that had to do with the refiner waivers and some of that process too. So we brought that at least to the national spotlight of national policy on the Farm Bureau side. So now we can at least have a unified message on that. And, there was, and other subjects that we brought from Iowa was, it had to do with crop insurance and conservation practices. And we tend not to like to see those, I guess, joined exclusively, because sometimes it gets a little muddy how those things work. And another thing that we brought to the floor that I remember talking about, and this was a long time ago, is we wanted to designate that the farm service agencies, the FSAs, like are closed right now, be considered essential services so that during shutdowns they wouldn't be closed. So how ironic is it that, stuff that we were trying to designate, I guess, a while back is actually now very relevant. So, that, of course, I believe had overwhelming support. down at the national level. And then, some other things that came up, and there's always talk about it in different states. States are always trying to get control of the interstate highways and make them toll roads. That seems to, throughout the country, that's kind of a common deal. And our position is that we think those should still be maintained at the federal level. And toll roads are really not something we get completely behind.
They do that in other states. I mean,
Illinois loves to.
Illinois loves to. And
their toll roads.
Florida, where one of the more beautiful girls in the world by the name of Shannon lives, who I think is joining us today. Florida is very famous for that too.
Every time I've been down to Florida, you got to have a bucket of change.
You better have a bucket. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was shocked. I remember first time I was down there, I didn't realize that it was that way, and man, we were digging. And yeah, I was completely. I didn't know that existed down there like that. So.
They have some great highways down there.
They do,
and they even have some special roads where tractor trailers with 2 or 3 trailers can run on. But they make you pay for it. That's for sure.
But again, like here in Iowa, a few years back, we supported that gas tax, and that was tough for us as farmers. We are pretty cautious and conservative when we do support a tax, but that also got new Highway 20 completed, which a lot of people were beginning to wonder if that would happen in some people's lifetime. And because I think would that go on for almost 60 years?
Yeah,
I think from its inception to completion.
Oh yeah.
And and you look at our just bring it to our local level. We for the most part have pretty darn good roads here in Webster County, and
we do.
Our supervisors, Randy Will, they do an excellent job on our rural roads and infrastructure, and that's important to us. Like just now, we're gonna have a snowstorm. They do an excellent job out in the rural parts.
Randy's retiring, don't you?
Oh, I hadn't heard.
Randy Will's retiring in the spring. Yeah.
Okay.
He's been a good county engineer.
He has. He's been very proactive. He has a very thought out plan, and he puts a 5-year plan out, and it's not set in stone, but it's a plan, and you can see it. And I know at Farm Bureau we've looked at it. We bring concerns. A lot of especially the secondary and the gravel roads, those are important for us as farmers for transporting and now
Randy understands that too,
and especially with a lot of the operations, whether you're hauling grain or you're in the livestock industry, there's feed trucks, there's animals being moved, there's just a lot of transportation out there that goes on, that those roads are vital to us, and they're definitely not seasonal anymore. And and then with bridges and stuff, we have it seems like in the meetings, and I'm probably off a little bit, it seemed like there was about 800 miles of gravel and 400 miles of paved roads in the county, and but we have a very high number of bridges because of the drainage districts and the dredge ditches and stuff. So we have a lot of structures that need maintained and updated, and they just do a great job. But a lot of that was through that road tax money. That kind of gave us the little extra to keep up with things. And at the end of the day, like I said, I think New 20 getting completed was pretty vital for this part of the state.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd have got Prestige without it.
I know, and it's truck wise. I think there's a lot of trucks now that slide out of Chicago, and instead of going down to 80, they just come across here, go over to Sioux City, and then
because 80's more congested than a lot of people know.
It is. So, new Highway 20 or 4-lane 20 is, I think, vital for the growth and even out at the global crossroads of
global innovation.
There you go. I always get that wrong.
The Iowa crossroads of global innovation.
Yeah.
Or Kelly will be over here beating us both up, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And then something else happened at the American Farm Bureau. Our own Iowa president, Craig Hill, he serves on the National Farm Bureau board, and
Hill's a pretty sharp guy.
He got reelected again for another 2-year term on that board. So that gives us a pretty good voice at the American Farm Bureau level.
We got to talk about President Trump's speech to the Farm Bureau before we get out of here.
Okay.
What did you think?
Well, this is kind of funny. I watched it on a TV station, then one of our board members, John Frederickson, attended.
Big John?
He
I know
attended
John.
it personally, and I asked him.
Oh, he did?
I asked him. I seen him at the elevator the other morning, and I asked him. I said, "Well, I watched it on TV, and I kind of felt that it was just a speech about the wall. You know, he was giving his sales pitch for the wall, which I've already seen on his presidential address, and I kind of felt maybe ag got left out a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said that was far from the case. So there was a lot more to the speech that wasn't aired. And he did talk about, trade and ethanol and basically all the highlights that I would assume that he would. So I get from, I seen only, I guess, a component or a part of the speech, but John said it was very well received. The Midwest is what got Trump elected.
Yes.
He couldn't have done it without the Midwestern states, whether it be the Rust Belt or here in the heartland. So he tends, and his action, I know his intentions, at least on this trade deal, it's nothing that he didn't talk about during the campaign. It's just, I guess, we're used to not having people follow through on what they say.
That's exactly. Try to smooth this all the time. We don't need another Clinton or Obama or even a Reagan. Who wants to smooth us all the time and give us a lot of happy talk and blah, blah, blah. We need somebody more like Trump who will at least tell us what he's going to do and stick with it.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what I'm afraid the Democrats are trying to do. They're running against Trump again.
I still have faith that we are going to end up in a better place when this book is written, the final chapter is written. I think we'll end up, hopefully, I'm hoping we end up in a better place. If it's not, I think he's going to have a hard time carrying support for another term. Or
he will have a terrible time. He won't be able to get it done.
Correct.
He's smart enough to know that.
Yes,
he is. By the way, Kim Reynolds wouldn't have been elected governor without Iowa's congressional 4th district. Something I guess she forgot because she sure has been hard on King. And by the way, Congressman King will not be here tomorrow. I've been saying that he has been. He did call last week, or he had his press people call and try to arrange something Thursday or Friday, but my Thursday schedule was full and I had Friday off, took a vacation day. So, but it wasn't that he was trying to dodge or anything or not be here. He wanted to be here. I just haven't been able to get him in yet. That's all. And he, our schedules haven't come together yet. But
yeah, I
look forward to talking with Congressman King. What questions would you have me ask Congressman King?
I guess, I don't know if I could summarize it in a single question, but I guess give me 2 or 3. As a person in the 4th district, it concerns me that it seems that he has gotten off the path of the priorities of the 4th district.
Yeah, well, that's a feeling that a lot of people have.
And unfortunately, he should have time to come on the radio because I don't think he's on any committees anymore.
Good point.
So, which as far as the 4th district goes, that is kind of frustrating to me.
Cindy Axne, the new congressional person for the 3rd district, has taken his place. Cindy Axne represents Polk County, essentially. That's who elected her, and she doesn't have any ag experience. I mean, that is not good for 4th district.
No, not necessarily good. Well, good for ag. I guess the only thing you could say it's good for Iowa, but I guess I'm not 100% sure her skill set is in some of those ag committees.
I don't know if her heart's in it either.
So that leads a little bit desired, especially when Representative King had the years in, and
That's right.
I mean, he had the seniority and whatnot, and like I said before, I'm a little concerned that he's become toxic enough that some of the good legislation that his name's on will basically be a hot potato now.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you if I get the opportunity, and he's not going to back down. And I'm not really hostile to him. I've been one of his biggest supporters. I have carried water for Steve King a long time, and I would do it again in the future. But I need him to come home.
Yeah, I
need him to come home.
And honestly, I think if a quality candidate, if there was a quality option, I think he'd have a pretty tough time now.
I think he will. Well, he's got a tough opponent in Randy Feenstra.
Yes,
he's got a pretty tough opponent. Now, Randy Feenstra was on this show. And I've said this a few times, made note of this a few times. Randy Feenstra was on the show, and I asked him flat out if he was in service to Polk County Republicans who don't like King anyway. He flatly denied it. Mike Sexton was on the next day, and I asked Mike about that, and Sexton just sneered.
Yeah.
He said, "Of course, the Polk County Republicans."
I seen a piece where Iowa had the longest serving governor with Terry Branstad. I believe we have the longest serving attorney general. We have Secretary of State, I believe, is also the longest. That's in the whole country.
That's right.
Iowa loves their incumbents.
Yes, they do.
To a point, I believe.
Tom Miller is Attorney General. My God, what does the guy do? I mean, can somebody name me an accomplishment of Tom Miller? I can't do it, can you? Okay.
But Iowa loves its incumbents,
Yes.
but I think if there was a viable option, I think they probably would excuse Mr. King in an election again if there was a viable option.
Yeah, our best right now, the best he can hope for is that Democrats run J.D. Scholten at him, because you want to talk about big hat, no cattle. That's J.D. Scholten.
Well, it's a very red district in the 4th district, so I think a viable option, he would have a very hard time now.
Mr. Scholten said during the last campaign he struggles with weightness.
I don't know how to respond.
I didn't either, really. You got my reaction. I have no other reaction than that. Just I burst out laughing. I think you what?
But yeah, I felt from what people I talked to at the Farm Bureau deal, they were Trump was very reassuring to him at our national convention at New Orleans, and I know as an Iowa, our Iowa delegation there did very well in the policies going forward at the national level. So, it's a tough thing to do. You get 50 states worth of ideas, and to get everyone to support you, that's a tall lift.
Steve Peterson with the Webster County Farm Bureau has been our guest. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, it's 3:33. The news coming up, and Jim Kirsten, and we're just going to have a good time today.
A good night's sleep starts with the right pillow. That's where MyPillow comes in, and we're excited to announce the new 4-pack special. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the 4-pack special tab, and save 50% off the 4-pack, which includes 2 MyPillow premiums and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Use promo code SKY at checkout or call 1-800-635-1825. That's 1-800-635-1825. Or go to MyPillow.com, click the 4-pack special tab, and use promo code SKY at checkout.
Hey, I'm Andy.
AM 1400.
If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 1616 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 1616. Enjoy.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing a proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time in any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in Northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word in their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 2 3/4 at $3.79. May down 2 3/4 at $3.87 1/4. July down 2 1/4 at $3.95. September down 2 3/4 at $3.97. March soybeans down 7 1/2 at $9.09 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at $9.22 3/4. July down 6 3/4 at $9.35 3/4. August down 6 1/2 at $9.41. March wheat closed up 3 1/2 at $5.21 1/4. Soybean meal down $2.10 a ton at $3.13. February live cattle down $1.40 at $125.12. April down $1.30 at $126.07. January feeder cattle down 40 cents at $141.05. March down $1.32 at $141.50. February lean hogs up 1/4 at $61.47. April down 17 cents at $66.10. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Do you know what macronutrients are? Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. We need macronutrients to survive. They are carbohydrates, protein, and fat. They are macro because we need them in large amounts. McKinley Health Center at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign breaks it down. Why do we need carbohydrates? Because they are the main fuel source for the body and are easily used by the body for energy. Carbs are needed for our major organs and nervous system to function. They are important for intestinal health. Fiber found in grains and other starchy foods is not digested but helps move waste out of the body. Fruits, vegetables, and whole grains are high in fiber, which has also been shown to reduce heart disease and some cancer risks. Why protein? For growth and tissue repair. For our immune system, energy when carbohydrates are not available, and protein preserves lean muscle mass. Protein that comes from animal sources contains all of the essential amino acids that the body needs. Plant sources of protein do not contain all of those. Why must we eat fats? For normal growth and development, for energy for absorbing certain vitamins. We need fat for cushioning our organs. Unsaturated fats from olive oil and other foods can decrease the risk of getting heart disease. Too much saturated fat from things like meat and butter and trans fats from processed foods can increase heart disease risk. I'm Julie Harker, Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off at school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 341. First of all, let me give you the weather forecast. Again, for those of you who've been waiting for winter, yeah, we have it here. We have it here now. Anyway, there is a winter weather advisory that's going through the rest of this afternoon, of course, through the overnight hours. Snow mainly after 5 o'clock this evening. It'll be blowing snow, all that sort of thing. Wind chill factor temperature as low as 10 degrees below zero overnight. Chance of precipitation overnight, 80 to 90% range. We may get to 3 inches. Now, I know the Weather Service cried wolf last week, but I think there's a better chance of this happening certainly now. Tomorrow it'll be sunny with a high of 19. Wind chill factor temperature 10 degrees below zero, maybe 20 degrees below zero. On Thursday, some blowing snow, mostly sunny and cold, high of 8. Wind gusting up to 32 miles an hour, and that'll drive the wind chill factor temperature way down there. On Friday, a good chance of snow before noon, otherwise sunny and cold with a high of 7. Saturday, cloudy with a high of 14. Sunday, mostly cloudy with a high of 23. On Monday, it'll be mostly cloudy with a high of 12. Seems funny to say that. High of 12. Right now, 21 degrees at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. Dwayne Tilges has died at the age of 75. Mr. Tilges' funeral was this morning at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Joe Kirby's died at the age of 63. There will be a funeral for Joe Kirby Friday at 10:30 in the morning at Sacred Heart Church. Visitation Thursday from 4 to 6 at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Margaret Semprini has died at the age of 99. There will be a funeral service for Margaret Semprini, and that'll be held Monday at 10:30 in the morning at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. 343 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 21 degrees with some fog and mist. This is AM 1400, KVFD.
Ever wanted to speak another language? Babbel can get you confidently speaking Spanish, French, or German within weeks.
I just started learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's really helping my pronunciation.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas? Haha, I got it. I wish I had tried Babbel sooner.
See why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, Babbel.com to try for free.
Loftusweiler Funeral Home is pleased to announce the addition of our crematory. I'm Luke Loftusweiler. The addition of our on-site crematory is another example of how we consistently exceed expectations and deliver a standard of service that is 100% guaranteed. At Loftusweilers, we're honored to give your family our assistance and expertise, taking care of even the smallest details before, during, and after the funeral, so you can begin the healing process. We're Loftusweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, a trusted friend of the family for over 160 years.
An ag economist and agricultural marketing specialist says producers have a lot to watch out for during the partial government shutdown. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. University of Wisconsin River Falls professor Brenda Botel recently spoke to the Wisconsin Agribusiness Classic, and we'll hear from her next on Managing for Profit.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs. I said it a lot. and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Brenda Botel with the University of Wisconsin River Falls says producers of ag commodities have to keep an eye on many different things.
What are the key market factors that we're going to be paying attention to? For all of agriculture, we have to be thinking about the world and the U.S. economies. What's happening with the exchange rate? What's happening with monetary policy? What's happening with meat demand? All those are going to play a lot into the demand then basically for our grains. All right. When we look at exchange rates, obviously the U.S. dollar, but that's having an impact on us. Monetary policy right now, as we look at it, the Fed's probably not going to raise interest rates too terribly much more again in 2019. But then that basically means that they're expecting the economy to slow down. So that plays into some of these things as far as particularly when we look at meat demand, and then both from a U.S. perspective and from a world perspective. Also, what we have to look at for 2019 is our exports and trade policy. There's a lot of information that's going on there. We don't know what's going on in some parts of it. There's a lot of negotiations, but those are important to pay attention to. The new Congress is important to pay attention to. It's going to have impacts as far as for us because it's going to have an impact on what's happening with energy policies, with the EPA, all of those, which eventually come back and play into these agricultural markets.
And she says without USDA reports during the partial government shutdown, the market doesn't have all the trading data it needs.
The World Ag Supply Demand Estimates were supposed to come out. The crop production report was supposed to come out. And January is a big report for those. That basically is when the USDA makes their final decisions as far as for what was the size of the 2018 crop. So without that report, we don't really know what was the final size.
Botel says without those reports, the markets rely on more private industry data and old data, which can lead to corrections when the shutdown ends.
The longer this goes on, the longer we're operating on old data, the greater the market volatility is going to be. And also then when we get those government reports, because then suddenly everything's going to come through and the government's going to say, hey, this was the size. If the size isn't what the analysts were expecting or what the private industry said, we're going to see greater market corrections at that time.
Botel is hopeful the shutdown ends soon, but says when it's over, it will still take time for reports to get done and market corrections to reflect what's really happening with trade. I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
DSOC wants to wish everyone a very prosperous and a happy new year. We would like to start off the year with our save the date for the 24th annual DSOC cake auction to be held on April 13th, 2019. Located again this year at Iowa Central East Campus, at DSOC, we believe that everyone deserves a violence-free life. With your help, we can continue to provide safety, support, and hope to victims and survivors in our community. If you would like to donate or volunteer for this year's event, give us a call at 955-2273. Hope to see you there.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes, and you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only, offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.
Current price times 1,000 acres. Carry the one. These days, it's hard to make the math work for your soybean fields. The BASF Liberty Link system with Liberty herbicide makes it easier. Start with a 2+ bushel per acre yield advantage. Add in lower system input costs and more complete weed control, and you get an extra $33 or more profit potential per acre. compared to Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans. Grow smart with Liberty Link and BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Can I ask you something, but without you taking it the wrong way?
Sure.
Are you stupid?
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Do you ever get tired of watching bad things happen to people?
Sticking up for you when no one else will.
That's right. We're sticking up for you when nobody else will. When nobody else will tell you anything. The city council wants to freeze you out. They just want to make dumb votes. Or they don't want to tell you why they're voting a certain way. We'll hold them accountable. We're not doing a real great job here lately because Menke's really the only one that'll come on. Little disappointed in Dave Flattery, but haven't seen him recently and haven't been able to get... Dave Flattery in the past has been a big advocate for forward momentum for our city. I really think he turned the tide a number of years ago on the Crosstown Connector when we had that big city council meeting at Iowa Central Auditorium. 300 and some people showed up. Dave got up and gave a very powerful and persuasive presentation as to why we needed the Crosstown Connector. I can't get Dave to come on the show and talk about the Warden Plaza because I know Dave believes passionately in this. I want to see, I want to hear his ideas about moving forward. That's all. Nevin Conrad's in tax season. I've been beating up on the Democrats, and that's kind of in Nevin's backyard. Maybe he'll come on, maybe he won't. I'm not going to hold it against Nevin. I mean, he's got a family and everything. And maybe his family's telling him, we don't want you to go on that show. But Nevin's a good baseball man, primarily. You can't be mad at a young man who loves baseball. You just can't do it. Who do you think abuses the privilege of air travel more, Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi? I don't have the answer, frankly. I do not have the answer. But I do know that Speaker Pelosi used Air Force aircraft to travel back to her district at a cost of $28,000, $28,210.51 per flight. The average cost of an international CODIL, commercial flight and otherwise, is $228,000. Of the 103 Iowa Pelosi-led delegations, 31 trips included members of the House Speaker's family. Of the 103 Pelosi-led congressional delegations, 31 trips included members of House Speaker Pelosi's family. Once traveling from Washington, D.C. through Tel Aviv, Israel to Baghdad, May 15th through the 20th, to discuss matters of mutual concern with government leaders, included members of Congress and their spouses, and cost $17,931 per hour in aircraft alone. Purchases included Johnny Walker Red Scotch, Grey Goose Vodka, E&J Brandy, Bailey's Irish Cream, Maker's Mark Whiskey, Courvoisier Cognac, Bacardi Light Rum, Jim Beam Whiskey, Beefeater Gin, Dewar Scotch, Bombay Sapphire Gin, Jack Daniels, Corona Beer, and several bottles of wine. Now, I got to get on some of these flights with Nancy Pelosi. I'll start drinking again. According to a memo for record, March 29th through April 7th, 2007. Yeah, we're going back a few years. One trip that involved a stop in Israel was only to bring kosher items into the hotel where Nancy Pelosi was staying. Nancy Pelosi is an Italian Catholic last time I looked. Kosher alcohol for mixed beverages in the delegation room was purchased on the local economy. That would be bourbon, whiskey, scotch, vodka, gin, triple second tequila. The Department of Defense advanced 56 members of Congress and staff $60,000 each to travel to Louisiana and Mississippi in 2008 to view flood relief advances from Hurricane Katrina. You know what they were doing? They flew down there and cost us a bunch of money to be seen looking concerned around Hurricane Katrina. The 3-day trip cost just the U.S. Air Force, $65,000, exceeding the authorized funding by $5,500. Speaker Pelosi has a history of wasting taxpayer funds with her boorish demands for military travel, and these documents suggest the Speaker's congressional delegation are more about partying, looking good than anything else. You have another explanation? Do you have another explanation? That's what she was doing when Trump grounded her and the rest of her delegation. They were on a bus ready to go to the airport. This was kind of, remember, under the radar of, well, it probably wasn't under the radar of the press. The press just is so crazy too, with suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, that they cannot stop obsessing about Trump and blaming him for being a liar or costing this or costing that. Nancy Pelosi is the Ferdinand Marcos of her time. Ferdinand Marcos and his wife, what was his wife's name? Anyway, there was very little distinction to them between private wealth and the government treasury. Nancy apparently thinks it's all hers. Good afternoon. You're on the air at AM 1400.
Yeah, I think Trump should have just changed the plane that they were going to fly over there and made it just a transport plane where they sit on the sides and in the rough seats that most of the soldiers are transported in, instead of the first class plane she wanted to fly on.
And what would have happened then?
Well, she probably wouldn't have went. But he would have made a plane available for her, and when she seen the seating arrangements, she wouldn't have went.
Well, that might have been. In fact, it probably would have. She can't go first class. She ain't going.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's Imelda Marcos on the...
Imelda! Thank you very much. The one with all the shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, she had shoes.
She had a lot of shoes. Hey, thanks for your call. All right, AM 1400 KPFT, the Forest Ford Edge. Some of my listeners are pretty smart. Imelda Marcos. Imelda Marcos. You remember Dan Crenshaw? He lost an eye in combat, then was elected a new congressman from Texas. And that Pete, that strange-looking Pete, Davidson, whatever his name is, on Saturday Night Live, dismissed his service, because Pete Davidson can do that because he's a funny-looking guy and he's famous because he's on television. So naturally, he can dismiss a man of the integrity of Dan Crenshaw. Well, Crenshaw has decided that he's not going to take a paycheck during this shutdown. Democrats have accused him of virtue signaling. Democrats have accused him of virtue signaling. Crenshaw says dismissing a wall or fence as an ineffective or fourth-century solution in an attempt to undermine the plan without providing any logical reasoning. Well, that's just a lazy argument. Let's think it through. Reopen the government with adequate funding for border security. Gee, that makes sense, doesn't it? But that would mean then you can't embarrass Trump because Nancy Pelosi thinks she's winning, but she's starting to lose it. I mean, she's winning with public employees and federal employees, but Trump is never going to have those people in the first place. I mean, public employees are going to vote Democratic. They are. Democrats control their salary. Democrats dedicate themselves to increasing benefits and wages of public employees. You want to see the county board of supervisors, now that it has changed its stripes, so to speak, in the last couple of years? You want to see any argument from any of the supervisors over increased pay and benefits for county employees? Well, Dinklaw might say something, but other than that, any request for a pay increase for county employees is going to be approved. You can believe that. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Fox News is next, KVFD Fort Dodge.
I'm Dave Ramsey. Join me every Monday through Friday afternoon from 5 to 8 p.m. on AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
The date is set. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Possible movement
Sure.
later this week in the Washington standoff over a border wall, though the two sides remain on different tracks.
They don't want to
Jared
tell you.
Halpern, live on Capitol Hill.
There will be two proposals.
Somebody else
in the
will.
partial government shutdown to get votes Thursday in the Senate.
The opportunity.
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell urging support of the president's proposal that would fully fund government, provide $5.7 billion for a border barrier, and temporarily extend protections for DACA recipients and other immigrants. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer offering a House-passed bill funding government for 2 weeks without border wall funding,
which will open up the government and then allow us to debate border security.
Both proposals would need bipartisan support to reach 60 vote thresholds. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. Meantime, the White House still planning for a State of the Union address 1 week from tonight, even though the House Speaker has suggested a delay and there's been no movement on the resolution needed to allow an address in the House. The White House hasn't ruled out giving the speech somewhere else. For now, the Pentagon gets a green light from the nation's highest court to implement a controversial policy.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the Pentagon can move forward with its plan to limit transgender military service while lawsuits challenging the constitutionality of this policy continue. President Trump announced on Twitter in July 2017 that the military should not allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity, citing what he viewed as the tremendous medical costs and disruption. Last year, after 3 federal judges from 3 separate district courts rejected the government's request to allow it to implement the policy, the government appealed those decisions.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. Renewed concern about global economic growth hits Wall Street. The Dow dropped 302. This is Fox News.
An officer's murder remains unsolved.
This is Peter
More
on
from
his
an
motorcycle.
officer.
And this is Peter off his motorcycle.
Please move your paper off my desk. Thank you.
On his motorcycle.
I feel so alive!
Off his motorcycle.
I feel like we covered that already, so...
On.
Wow! Look at the ocean!
Off.
Look at this article I found about urban planning.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Some job recruitment sites overload your inbox with resumes. Glassdoor knows not just any will do. From 62 million job seekers, Glassdoor only matches you with qualified candidates who have the skills and experience your small business needs to grow. In fact, Glassdoor hires are 30% more likely to stay with your company longer. And Glassdoor can help you find that perfect candidate in half the resumes. Go to glassdoor.com/hire. Glassdoor. Find the right fit for your business.
30,000 striking teachers are poised to go back to work in the nation's second largest district, Los Angeles, if a tentative deal announced today is ratified.
Teachers protested for 7 school days over class size, pay, and lack of staffing, along with concerns that the district has been way too invested in charter schools. The teachers union president actually praised the very man he's been so critical of, District President Austin Buettner. Buettner said they'd always wanted the same things. They just couldn't commit any more cash at the district level.
The county has stepped up to help support mental health and nursing in our schools. And the governor's team and leadership in Sacramento have. So it's all in for schools.
The real winner here may be LA's mayor, Eric Garcetti, who helped negotiate both sides to a deal. He is supposedly considering a run for president in 2020.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal in LA. A young woman missing since Saturday night in Boston is found alive. Last seen after leaving a bar. Police are planning a news conference an hour from now. 2 films lead the pack to the Oscars.
We won! Oh, it is not over. We must continue. Oh, I did not know that.
The Favorite has 10 nominations, so does Roma, including the first Best Picture opportunity for Netflix. The streaming service also got 3 nominations for The Ballad of Buster Scruggs after releasing both movies in theaters first. And there's more movie history made.
The Black Panther lives.
Black Panther becoming the first superhero film nominated for Best Picture, and Spike Lee gets his first directing nomination for BlacKkKlansman 30 years after his writing nod for Do the Right Thing. Individual nominees range from regulars like Glenn Close and Christian Bale to first-timers, including Lady Gaga for A Star is Born. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News.
Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing her proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time and any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in Northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed the sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word on their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. High temperatures reach up to 25 this afternoon under cloudy skies with snow likely. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Chance of snow again tonight, 7 above. High of 19 tomorrow. 4 to 8 inches of snow today through tonight. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 21.
An officer's murder remains unsolved. More from the Iowa Almanac in a moment. It's the Floppy Show book, now available at thefloppyshow.com. Remember the magic of Dwayne Ellett and Floppy through nearly 200 photos that help tell the story of Iowa's favorite television duo. Celebrate Floppy's 60th birthday by getting a copy of the Floppy Show book, autographed by the author, only at thefloppyshow.com. The Floppy Show book at thefloppyshow.com. Mr. and Mrs. Ernest Buckman operated a drugstore in the Bremer County town of Plainfield and lived in the upstairs of the building. Just after 2 a.m. on January 23, 1961, Mrs. Buckman heard a loud noise that sounded like an explosion. When she looked out the window, she saw someone moving around inside the packing plant across the street. So she called Town Marshal William Meadows and the family members who operated the packing plant. Thieves had broken the lock on the front door of the building and were still trying to crack the safe in the company's office when Marshal Bill Meadows entered the building. One of the thieves fired a high-powered .30-30 deer rifle. The bullet went completely through the 36-year-old officer's body, and he fell, barely 3 feet inside the doorway. The thieves continued shooting until both of them exited the building. Despite a $500 reward offered by Iowa Governor Norman Irby, the burglars were never found. The burglars were using explosives to open the cash compartment of a safe, hoping for an easy score. They shouldn't have bothered. The compartment contained only documents. The cash had been taken to the bank earlier in the day. And we still don't know who killed a Plainfield officer in the line of duty on this date in 1961. And that's Iowa Almanac for January 23rd. I'm Jeff Stein.
Loffersweiler Funeral Home is pleased to announce the addition of our crematory. I'm Luke Loffersweiler. The addition of our on-site crematory is another example of how we consistently exceed expectations and deliver a standard of service that is 100% guaranteed. At Loffersweilers, we're honored to give your family our assistance and expertise, taking care of even the smallest details before, during, and after the funeral, so you can begin the healing process. We're Loffersweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, a trusted friend of the family for over 160 years.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Hypnosis can help. Join over 500,000 people who have attended Mark Patrick Hypnosis programs with weight loss results. Mark Patrick Hypnosis will be in Fort Dodge on Wednesday, February 6th.
After this hypnosis, I want to eat good food.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about desserts like I used to. I had lost a total of 83 pounds.
It's easy, it's fun, very relaxing, and very successful.
And I would just say go for it.
For only $49.99, lose all the weight you want, 100% guaranteed. Wednesday, February 6th at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169 South, Fort Dodge. The seminar will be held from 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. Registration starts at 5. Attend this program and find out how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your weight loss goals. There's limited seating, so get there early. Learn more at markpatrickseminars.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yes. Joining us now, noted hip-hop master David Furick. Oh, that's right. Hip-hop guy David Furick and city manager. Very versatile. How you doing, David?
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, you broke it down, didn't you? You broke it down. Come on,
that'd
man.
be in the early 80s, riding my bicycle, listening to, having one of those big radios with full of batteries.
Giant boombox, huh?
Carry on your shoulder.
Oh,
and
yeah.
listen to music. Oh, yeah.
I think that song was actually in the early 90s, but that's okay. That's
Yeah.
all right. David Furick, of course, is the city manager. I have a question or comment for David Furick, 515-955-1400. You know, I talked with Police Chief Roger Porter earlier today, and I had a question for Roger, and as soon as I asked it, I knew I was asking the wrong person, and Roger said, well, if David Frick's coming in later, ask him. Now I forgot what the heck I was going to ask him. It'll probably come to me.
Good.
So city council meeting last night, a lot of budgeting going on. What happened to the city council meeting last night?
Yeah, it was just some budget presentations. It wasn't really an action. Just so what we do during our budget cycle, which we are budgeting for fiscal year 2020. So that starts July 1st, 2019 and runs through June 30th, 2020. The state requires that we have all that work done, have a public hearing, and everything submitted to the county auditor by March 15th. So we spend most of January, part of December, and maybe a little bit into February in doing budget presentations to the council. We break it up into department presentations and do about an hour. Before, in December we'll do 2 1-hour sessions, budget presentations before council meetings, and in January we meet every Monday, unless it was the first,
right?
And do budget presentations and break it up into different departmental groups. And
now explain the process. The different department heads and you put together a budget, right, and then submit it to the council so they can go over it.
So yeah, the process starts even more administratively in the fall. As we get into November, we look at what are our known cost increase going to be, and typically that is wages, because our operational budget is probably 3/4, at least, I'm estimating, but 3/4 wages. It's the people. We're a service agency, really. We do
labor is always the biggest
we
cost.
provide a lot of services. So 3/4 of our costs are going to be labor and people. And we pretty much can have a good idea what that is going to be if it is, through people that are part of a collective bargaining agreement. We pretty much have, those are usually 3-year agreements. So we know what the wages are going to be for the next year. And then our non-union employees. We try to benchmark them with our AFSCME union, so we keep that pretty similar. So we pretty much know that. And then once we get that determined, we meet with department heads. Jeff Nemmers and I do that and just see what their ideas are, what their plans are for the fiscal year, what types of things they think are going to add costs, what types of things they think are going to save costs. Are there different revenue sources that we can be looking at, and try to come up with what is a plan. And as we get into January, we get a better idea of what our revenues are going to be, because then we get our tax values from the county, usually first week of January, and that tells us what our tax levy is going to be. And then at that point, we start doing the budget presentations to the council that are more of the operational departments that are part of the general fund and the tax supported ones. So, last night was we did fire department and ambulance and parks and recreation, and then human resources. Human resources is a pretty small department. 2 employees. 2? Yeah, do a lot of work for 2 employees. I mean, think about all the work with the staff, and especially all the work they had done last year with the ambulance conversion and all that. They're busy folks there for 2 people. And then we did the fire and ambulance budgets and presented those to council. Those are, it's interesting as we're trying to make projections going into next year. And ambulance revenue is quite significant, but we've only have about 6 months experience now. And so we're still trying to figure out how that's going to be is it going to be consistent? Is it going to be variable? How consistent, how variable? And you're trying to project budgets out 18 months from now, and we only have 6 months of data to go with. So it's a little bit of a shot in the dark. So I think we're being a little conservative on our revenues, which is better than being aggressive and ended up being overshooting your revenue. So we're trying to play that pretty conservative.
Ben Brink was just going to have that fire department fully staffed, wasn't he? he was just on a mission from God. Well, he got it done.
Yeah, it got done, and I think it's running really well. I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to our firefighters, the ones that have been here for a while, and they've stepped up and done a lot more work now. And then it's great to have a new group of paramedics and EMTs. I think it's working out pretty well, but it's a different dynamic. It's a different department now with all the new people, the new activity, the level of busyness is significant.
Do you know how many people came over from Trinity Regional?
Oh, I hate when you ask me numbers questions because I'll get it wrong. So I think ultimately I want to say it was about 9 out of our 12 positions we were looking for. And there were some differences there because we had done some hiring for firefighters, some attrition replacements, and one of the medics that was at Unity Point actually applied to be a firefighter before we made the announcement on the conversion. So that was one that came over to be a firefighter.
Sure.
And do that. And we've had another couple of Unity Point medics have applied or on our list to be firefighters as well. So
okay.
I want to say it was 9. I could be wrong by 1 or 2. And I think
I'm not trying to nail your feet to the floor necessarily.
12. I mean, there was. I know there was at least 2 to 4 that were staying with Unity Point to handle some of the stuff that still needed to get done there in the different roles.
Sure. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is City Manager David Furyk. Again, if you have a question or comment for David Furyk, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. Where are we in the budgeting process now?
We're almost done.
Really?
We have meetings planned for Monday, budget presentations. That is kind of a wrap up. Jeff Nemmers and I were talking about that today, whether we think we have enough information and we're solid enough to actually do the wrap up presentation on Monday. If not, we'll do that the first meeting in February, which I think is the 11th. Is that the second Monday?
Sure.
And have the final wrap up. The key things that are come at the end after we get through all the department presentations, and we will do that Monday. We will finish up all the department presentations because really all that's left is is Dart Bus is one, and then Jeff and I will give a rundown of our two departments. The city clerk's office, and then we have the mayor and manager, and then the city council's budgets, and then there's some general administrative budgets we go through, and then
look, one of the big budget items seems to be the golf course out there, Lakeside.
Well, yeah, we went through the Parks and Recreation budget last night and
Sure.
talked about Lakeside. The Parks and Recreation budget total is about 1.6 million.
Right.
But the interesting thing is about 2/3 of that, or 1.1 million, is from revenues, from not the tax supported stuff. So the fees paid at Lakeside, the fees paid to Rosedale Rapids, the other revenue generated from Harlan Rogers are big components of revenue that goes into offsetting the cost for Parks and Recreation.
Does Lakeside pay for itself?
Here's how we handle Lakeside.
Because Rosedale Rapids is never going to pay for itself, right?
I wouldn't say never, but the probability is pretty low. So what we do with Lakeside, and this has been a change of philosophy, is when
wait a minute. You would never say never, but the possibility is fairly remote. Is that what you?
If that's what I said, but something like that. I said, could it possibly break even, but and not need a tax subsidy? But I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, it's essentially a swimming pool. And how many months of the year do we have?
3.
Yeah, 3, 4 tops. And it's you're just never going to get it paid for. I mean, it's something a town has to have, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's one of those amenities where you have it, and because the town says that's something we want to have, and
right.
And the representatives are saying that's something we want as enough of a quality thing that we're willing to have it be tax supported. And in a town like Fort Dodge, and probably in most towns in Iowa and most towns in the Midwest, they're just not open long enough to cash flow.
Well, they can be. I mean, can you imagine a swimming pool being open now? I mean, is there? How do we balance that out? Some folks tell me that we take money from Lakeside, the revenue from Lakeside, and put it on the aquatic center side of the ledger to kind of make things.
No, it's tax supported. You take money
totally tax supported.
Yeah, it's we call it like a tax asking. So each one of those entities has their revenues that they generate, and then their expenses, and the differences, we call it a tax asking.
Mhm.
So Lakeside, Rosedale usually has a tax asking that's somewhere between around 30,000 or maybe.
Sure.
Again, I'm quoting numbers I don't have in front of me, so I could be off a bit on there. But you asked about what we do out at Lakeside, and we've changed how we budget out there and how we allocate to make it more of what I would call self-sufficient.
Mhm.
So when the revenues come in for Lakeside, they are all accounted for in the Lakeside capital account. I might get too deep into accounting here.
No, that's practically impossible to do.
Yeah, well,
there's a few people out there that'll know what you're talking about. And they'll go around the coffee tables 9 times.
So then, at the end of the fiscal year, so all the money is recorded into one account, not its own separate bank account, but in an accounting term. Then, as the expenditures are done for the year, the money is pulled out of that and put towards the expenditures. What is left stays in the Lakeside capital to pay for capital improvements around there. So primarily, we try to have it self-funded. Now, I say that there is still employee benefits that are tax supported. So the individuals that are allocated to Lakeside, their benefits are paid by the tax levy. They're not paid by the revenues from Lakeside, but their salaries are, the other expenses for Lakeside are paid from the revenues out there. And then, like I said, the remainder is used for capital projects. In the past, we had always take the first 15 cents of every dollar earned out there. Well, I should take that back. I don't think I'm 100% accurate with that, because I think some of the dollars are allocated differently. But in general, 15% of all the dollars went to the capital, and then the remainder was to pay off operational expenses. And if there was a gap, then the taxes kind of covered the gap. So we've changed that around to have to make Lakeside more of a self-sufficient entity than what it had been in the past.
So is it a self-sufficient entity? You knew I was going to ask that question.
Specifically and precisely sort of. As I said
or is
earlier,
it another entity that the city and the council believe is something that we need?
well, as I said earlier, and specifically that the benefits that are given to the full-time employees that are allocated to Lakeside are not paid by Lakeside revenues. They're paid by taxes. So that is a city-supported, quote unquote, taxpayer-supported entity. So no, it's not 100%.
Well, we don't have full-time staffers out of Lakeside, do we?
We have full-time. We have.
I mean, what would somebody do at Lakeside now?
So like Chad Graff is responsible for turf grass, and he's over both Lakeside and Harlan Rogers. He's a full-time employee. He works year round. He works a lot more in the summer than he does in the winter, but he's a full-time employee, gets benefits. So then you take someone like Hannah Engstrom, who's responsible for the business side of the three entities. What I mean, the business side, are we ordering, do we have all the right products, commodities? Do we have everything that goes into the business side, and then supervises the managers of each entity? Her salary, she's a full-time employee. Her salary is allocated among the different entities. So,
so it's not really Lakeside. Then we can probably say is not self-sufficient.
No, there's none of the three business entities are
none of them
self-sufficient.
Okay,
they all have benefits to the community, but
there are benefits to the
require
community.
Tax support.
That's absolutely right. I mean, again, there's no way that the aquatic center. You may equivocate, David. I understand, but it's just not going to pay for itself.
I'm a good equivocator. Huh?
And I don't. I would vote again to keep the aquatic center. Well, I wouldn't vote to where it went. I was one of those who didn't want it there. I wanted to save Olsen Park Bowl, but that's all over with now. But it's something we have to have, and we probably have to have Lakeside too. There are people who don't want that, but I would think, what kind of town are you talking about living in here, for God's sake?
Yeah, I mean, Lakeside is a gem. It's a wonderfully kept golf course. I mean, for a public course that it gets all the play it does, it is in wonderful shape. And really, I think the people of Fort Dodge are lucky to have a great facility like that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, as golf evolves as a sport and, it grows and it shrinks as far as participation, as people's what they want to do for fun, how things shrink. Always looking at ways to make Lakeside more interesting for more people.
Sure.
As it's not a country club where we want to exist with, just golf. We want it to be, exciting and offer different things. So we keep looking at how to get folks out there and keep it interesting and try to get families out there and young people out there to learn how to golf and enjoy it for what it is.
How many golf courses do we have? We have Country Club, or what used to be called the Country Club.
Or the Country Club. We have Willowbrook. Willow Ridge is 9.
Or Willowbrook, where'd I get that?
And
which is a great one. I think that's a great one. And Lakeside is 18, right?
Lakeside's 18. And then Deer Creek is just 9. I've never golfed it before, but I think Deer Creek's just 9.
I have never golfed Deer Creek. The what we used to call the Country Club is a great course.
Yeah, Country Club's a nice course.
Yeah,
it's fun to golf.
Do you go out there?
There's been outings out there. I've never been a member, but I've gone out for outings to the Country Club.
Growth Alliance has something, and
Growth Alliance outing.
There's even a group that I know of, the Mother Truckers Open, that go out there. A bunch of truck driving guys.
So we've been out there for. I think the policemen have had their golf outing out there.
Sure.
Or the Crime Stoppers. Sorry, it's not a policeman. It's the Crime Stoppers golf outing, but a lot of police golf in it.
Yeah. Sure.
I've golfed out there quite a bit. It's nice. I haven't golfed much lately. I don't think I golfed at all last year.
I didn't, I haven't golfed in 2 years, to be honest with you. I used to golf a lot, especially when my son was coming up, because he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's got 3 kids now, so he didn't get to golf a lot himself. Yeah. But I had some great years golfing at all those courses. We were at Lakeside every Sunday for quite often, and we still had the 9 down there. What did we used to call it?
Sunkissed Meadows?
Sunkissed Meadows.
It's still called Sunkissed Meadows. Now it's Frisbee golf.
Now it's
and it's super popular. You got to go by there on a weekend.
I suppose it is.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to, I haven't played Frisbee golf there. I've played at the other one at Snow Crawford. But I ride bikes down there a lot in the summer, and you see a lot of people out there throwing frisbees.
Oh, I
frisbee
believe
golf.
that. That got to be popular in the mid 70s. It never caught. I never got into it.
It's way easier than regular golf. I think that's why they like it. It's so easy compared to regular golf.
No, we used to go to Sunkist. Oh, it was easy to get on there, and
can
do a
just
quick
walk on.
9. Yeah, it was. I think the first tee there was about 190 yards. Nothing to it.
Yeah.
Quick 4-iron, nothing, or 5-iron or whatever.
Unless you slice it, and then it went over to into the street. We're actually going to try something called foot golf out there.
What?
At Sunkist. Like you play golf with a soccer ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're going to put up some soccer holes next to the frisbees or close to the frisbee golf, so that if you want to go out there and play with a soccer ball, you could. I guess that's a new fad. I've never done it before, but it'd be kind of cool.
Well, times change, interests change,
Yeah, and it's not a real big expense to get into. I mean, you just, some buckets with flags on them, and then people bring their soccer balls and play. I mean, the nice thing about frisbee golf course is it's way easier to maintain compared to a real golf course. Keeping that grass short and watered and alive is really expensive versus letting it grow tall.
Yeah. Just before you go, and David Furrick is our guest at AM 1400 KVFD. Was there any indication? I think I asked the mayor this last Thursday. Was there any indication that the KDG proposal for apartments up by Nolecrest that went down, Profile Encourage, did they give any indication? And I don't know who does KDG make contact with the city staff or council people or the mayor when they want to make a proposal like this, or what is the process there?
So
the question I'm getting to is, did KDG give any indication that they might make another proposal in a different area? But I would like to know the process of how KDG made their proposal in the first place.
So way back when KDG first came to look at the Warden for a project,
right?
They said, hey, we want to do the Warden project, but we'd really like to do a new apartment complex as well. I think they said it helped create some synergies to having both those projects and having more units in Fort Dodge, and they had some experience with doing with some of their partners doing the new construction type places. So we showed them some areas where it would go, like south of the middle school and the other areas we had in that area that could potentially be apartment complexes. Well, they ended up where they did because they couldn't get anything worked out in the area south of the middle school with the owner. They couldn't get anything worked out. I think they were even looking east of 32nd Street and south of 10th Avenue North, because those owners were already planning to deal with Gypsum Creek. So they went to the owner of the property they were there on, and the owner didn't want them in the area we had zoned or planned for multifamily, because he wanted to keep he didn't want to give that up, and they wanted to be on 32nd Street. So that's how they got to making the proposal for 32nd Street. And then that is through staff. They say, okay, here's the site we're interested in. We have an agreement with the owner. It's contingent upon rezoning. So how do we start? It's like, well, okay, we got to start the process, and you have a rezoning application and
Sure.
the process that goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission and then to the city council. So yeah,
Okay.
it starts with staff.
Starts with that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Typically.
KDG's out of Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Who's our person that talks to us here in Fort Dodge?
So I mean, we have regular conversations with a guy named Patrick Kearns, who's one
Patrick Kearns.
of the K's. It's
One of the Ks.
It's the Kearns brothers, and then there's
Are they some brothers that are the guys?
Yes,
that-
Patrick and Kevin Kearns.
Okay.
That Kevin's been in development, I think, his whole professional life, and Patrick's recently got into it with him. But then they had Nick Cochran was their spokesperson at the council.
Oh, Nick
meeting.
was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Nick's a good man.
yeah,
He's a real good man. So is his dad, Stu. Stu's been over there. Stu's been a warrior on that school board for how many years? Now,
Yeah,
he doesn't
he's awesome.
get paid, and just is. We owe a lot to Stu Cochran.
yeah, he's put in a lot of work.
Boy, he has. I mean, that school board is no picnic to be on either sometimes, but he must be a labor of love for him, because he really goes forward with it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. David Furrick's been our guest. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD. I guess I said that about 3 times.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Can I
ask you something, but without you taking it the wrong way?
Sure.
Are you stupid?
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, supposed to be lousy weather tonight. Be careful driving, okay? The news and weather coming up at AM 1400 KVFD.
Midstate Plumbing and Heating shows their support year-round to the families in our community whose loved ones risk their lives for our freedom. Whether it's here in the United States or in another country, they've put their lives on the line to protect our way of life. Their commitment and sacrifice will never be forgotten. This message has been brought to you by Midstate Plumbing and Heating for residential or commercial plumbing in and around Fort Dodge. For repairs, new installations, and more, call Midstate Plumbing and Heating.
Yes.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes, and you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only. Offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
Ever wanted to speak another language? Babbel can get you confidently speaking Spanish, French, or German within weeks.
I just started learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's really helping my pronunciation.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas? Haha, I got it. I wish I had tried Babbel sooner.
See why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com to try for free.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing a proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time and any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed the sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word in their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
From the
Fox Business Network, the major averages ending lower, snapping a 4-day winning streak amid worries about global economic growth and disappointing U.S. home sales, with the Dow closing down 302 points, NASDAQ down 137, S&P 500 down 38. And after the closing bell, IBM releasing quarterly results with shares spiking after Big Blue reported earnings and revenue that beat Wall Street estimates and also better than expected full-year guidance. IBM is also betting that its forthcoming acquisition of Red Hat for $34 billion will start turning.
Yeah, it's Mike.
If you're looking to eliminate interchange costs,
Chicago and Los Angeles in coming weeks. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
And now, the worst commercial ever.
Hi, I am Justin Galvin, retired athlete from your local ball team, so I know a thing or two about insuring a landscaping business. I trust the pros, commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive. Get customized insurance solutions that'll hit a grand slam home run for you. Are we done?
A totally mailed-in celebrity endorsement. Awful. Whereas commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive is anything but. Visit ProgressiveCommercial.com to quote today. Insurance provided and serviced by Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Its affiliated and third-party insurers.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down 2 3/4 at $3.79. May down 2 3/4 at $3.87 1/4. July down 2 1/4 at $3.95. September down 2 3/4 at $3.97. March soybeans down 7 1/2 at $9.09 1/4. May down 7 1/4 at $9.22 3/4. July down 6 3/4 at $9.35 3/4. August down 6 1/2 at $9.41. March wheat closed up 3 1/2 at $5.21 1/4. Soybean meal down $2.10 a ton at $3.13. February live cattle down $1.40 at $125.12. April down $1.30 at $126.07. January feeder cattle down 40 cents at $141.05. March down $1.32 at $141.50. February lean hogs up 1/4 at $61.47. April down 17 cents at $66.10. I'm Dwayne Murley.
An ag economist and agricultural marketing specialist says producers have a lot to watch out for during the partial government shutdown. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. University of Wisconsin River Falls professor Brenda Botel recently spoke to the Wisconsin Agribusiness Classic, and we'll hear from her next on Managing for Profit.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. Like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
This week on the Honorable
about that part of your life.
I think it's probably just information and transparency about the process and what it
I
takes.
wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Brenda Botel with the University of Wisconsin River Falls says producers of ag commodities have to keep an eye on many different things.
What are the key market factors that we're going to be paying attention to? For all of agriculture, we have to be thinking about the world and the U.S. economies. What's happening with the exchange rate? What's happening with monetary policy? What's happening with meat demand? All those are going to play a lot into the demand then basically for our grains. All right. When we look at exchange rates, obviously the U.S. dollar, but that's having an impact on us. Monetary policy right now, as we look at it, the Fed's probably not going to raise interest rates too terribly much more again in 2019. But then that basically means that they're expecting the economy to slow down. So that plays into some of these things as far as particularly when we look at meat demand, and then both from a U.S. perspective and from a world perspective. Also, what we have to look at for 2019 is our exports and trade policy. There's a lot of information that's going on there. We don't know what's going on in some parts of it. There's a lot of negotiations, but those are important to pay attention to. The new Congress is important to pay attention to. It's going to have impacts as far as for us because it's going to have an impact on what's happening with energy policies, with the EPA, all of those, which eventually come back and play into these agricultural markets.
And she says without USDA reports during the partial government shutdown, the market doesn't have all the trading data it needs.
The World Ag Supply Demand Estimates were supposed to come out. The crop production report was supposed to come out. And January is a big report for those. That basically is when the USDA makes their final decisions as far as for what was the size of the 2018 crop. So without that report, we don't really know what was the final size.
Botel says without those reports, the markets rely on more private industry data and old data, which can lead to corrections when the shutdown ends.
The longer this goes on, the longer we're operating on old data, the greater the market volatility is going to be. And also then when we get those government reports, because then suddenly everything's going to come through and the government's going to say, hey, this was the size. If the size isn't what the analysts were expecting or what the private industry said, we're going to see greater market corrections at that time.
Botel is hopeful the shutdown ends soon, but says when it's over, it will still take time for reports to get done and market corrections to reflect what's really happening with trade. I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
Meaningful memorialization starts when loved ones talk about what matters most.
Grandpa, this card asks, what was your favorite vacation?
Well, we didn't go on vacation when I was a kid, but our family did go fishing when we could. My dad could always find the best fishing holes, and he taught me how to clean the fish, too.
You mean you ate the fish you caught?
You bet.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 1616 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 1616. Enjoy.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
Your promotion to CIO, Chief Ink Officer.
Because right now at Staples, you get 25% back in rewards when you spend $75 on ink or $200 on toner.
With savings that big, you'll be the Director of Deals, the President of Printing.
Get 25% back in rewards on ink or toner, now at Staples.
Where there's a whole lot in store.
Ends 1/26/19. Restrictions apply. See store or staples.com/25back for details.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
Michael Devine. A lot of people like that show. But because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
This week on the Iowa Watch Connection.
I think it's probably just information and transparency about the process and what it takes.
The Iowa General Assembly is back in session.
It's about revenues and making sure we're able to afford the things we want to do in Iowa. But it's also, did that tax cut actually help middle-class families?
And the attitude seems more cordial.
In general, I thought Governor Reynolds did a fine job of presenting her agenda to Iowans. We will work with her as much as possible on the things that we agree on.
The 2019 Iowa legislative session now underway. Our topic this week.
The Iowa Watch Connection is presented by the Iowa Center for Public Affairs Journalism, online at iowawatch.org. Here is Jeff Stein.
The 88th Iowa General Assembly gavelled into session this past week. Monday was filled with the obligatory signing of the roll after swearing-in ceremonies, speech-making by the leaders of each party in each chamber, and figuring out which reserved parking space goes with which lawmaker. Tuesday was the governor's condition of the state address. Wednesday was the Chief Justice's State of the Judiciary speech. Along the way, the governor's proposed budget was set forth, and a 2-day inauguration for the governor and lieutenant governor occupied schedules Thursday and Friday. In other words, other than the inauguration, a pretty standard start. But there was a bit of a different tone in the State House as this session began, as the executive director and editor of Iowa Watch, Lyle Muller, found out when he went to the Capitol this past Tuesday.
There's no exaggerating when describing the last Iowa legislative session, which drew to a close last spring. It was contentious. Republicans had control of both the House and Senate, with the Republican governor to boot. A stream of bills popular with Republicans and opposed by, loathed in some instances, by Democrats passed during the last 2 years. Limits on public employee collective bargaining, a 1% increase in public school funding in each of the 2 years, and a fetal heartbeat law, just to name 3. An election since then has come and gone, and Republicans still control both legislative chambers and the governor's office. But the tone seemed gentler as the 2019 legislative session began in Des Moines. No doubt contentious arguments will happen over how much to fund programs, but Governor Kim Reynolds hit on some bipartisan themes during her condition of the state address on January 15th. Start work on a mental health care delivery system that reaches children. Improve funding for other health care delivery in Iowa through Medicaid. Boost spending on K-12 public schools by 2.3% per pupil. Rebuild rural Iowa through education, jobs, and other means. And pass constitutional amendments that restore voting rights to convicted felons who serve their time, but also preserve certain rights for crime victims.
In general, I thought Governor Reynolds did a fine job of presenting her agenda to Iowans. We will work with her as much as possible on the things that we agree on.
That's Senator Pam Yoakum, a Dubuque Democrat.
I was pleased to hear that she wanted to make additional funding available for mental health services in our state. One of my concerns, however, is that we still are not fully funding the children's mental health system, and that some of the funding I saw presented in today's speech on K-12 education, although it says a 2.3% increase in funding, which is good, some of that money is actually coming from cuts to the area education agencies. And of course, they are the ones that provide the needed services to our children with special needs in the classroom. So I have some concerns about some of the things I've heard and some of the details I've heard. But, we're going to work with her as much as we possibly can, because we want to move the state forward. And we want to make sure that Iowa's workers get a fair shake.
Democrats will be interested in the state's income tax rate after Republicans enacted tax rate cuts in the last session. Representative Dave Jacoby of Coralville framed it this way.
It's about revenues and making sure we're able to afford the things we want to do in Iowa, but it's also, did that tax cut actually help middle class families? Is that helping people send their children to college? Is it helping people pay their bills? I mean, we keep talking about who we're targeting for tax policy, but it seems as if it tends to be the people that are in 7 figures and may not need the cut as much as someone who's, both parents are working and the family's struggling. I think it doesn't hurt to sit down and review all your tax policies from the last 5 years, and frankly, have an individual meeting on each tax credit that we do.
Todd Pritchard is the House Minority Leader, a Charles City Democrat. He said he was pleased to hear Reynolds propose 4 psychiatric residencies out of the University of Iowa to deal with mental health issues in rural Iowa. He also liked the governor's overall focus on rural Iowa development, but he questioned whether enough funding would be available.
I appreciate the focus on rural issues, but what I explain is what's happening in rural Iowa is we're losing services. And we're losing services like education opportunities and programs. Our rural schools aren't able to keep up in terms of offering the same types of high quality programs that maybe bigger districts can. So that's a disadvantage when you're comparing where do you want to raise a family? What are the opportunities what you want your children to have in school? But it goes beyond school. It goes to job training. It goes to healthcare. I'm having to travel for basic healthcare services to see a doctor, a pharmacist, a specialist, some sort of clinician. Those are the types of things that if we want to keep rural Iowa vibrant and attractive for people to live and work, we've got to make sure that the services are available within a reasonable distance.
On the Republican side, Representative Ashley Hinson of Marion sees a lot to like in what Reynolds proposed to start the session.
I loved hearing about her priorities for children's mental health. I think that was a shared priority that we and many legislators have in terms of making some progress on the recommendations from the Children's Mental Health Board. I know that some of her other policy recommendations in terms of the Victims' Rights Amendment, the constitutional amendment, that's something that I had worked on last year to try to gain support for in this chamber. In a bipartisan way. I co-sponsored that with a Democrat last year. And so I'm hopeful that with the governor laying that out as a key policy priority that she wants to see move forward, I think that hopefully we'll be able to get some support there. And then also with, looking at being able to rehabilitate and take that next step and get your dignity back in terms of restoring felon voter rights, and then also some of the steps to eliminate liability for employers who are willing to take that chance on those people. I think those are all things that are really, really important and a small step we can take to help in those areas.
What's moving the needle now on felony voting rights? That's been around a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's probably just information and transparency about the process and what it takes. I think that, like she said, she's done this 88 times, already. So I think from my perspective, if you have fulfilled your sentence and you've paid your debt to society, so to speak, then why should we have additional barriers to you having your life back? Last year, one of the bills that I worked on was a bill that would revoke your driver's license for 6 months if you had any sort of drug conviction. So, if you're already down and out and there's another hit against you when you get out, how are you supposed to get back to your life? So I think that, anything we can do to make that transition easier to normal life again, where they can continue to be good members of our society, I think that's really what's driving that conversation overall.
Despite the expected political fights, House Leader Todd Pritchard said he'd like to bring a collaborative tone to the 2019 legislative session.
The voters have spoken. The election is over. I think voters are tired of year-round, constant elections. We are sent here to do the people's work and advance the state, advance the interests of the state. And so the tone that I'm taking is to have a collaborative tone, to have a tone that looks to find ways to move the state forward.
I'm Lyle Muller with the Iowa Watch Connection.
And Lyle sat down one-on-one with the governor shortly after she gave her condition of the state message. You'll hear the conversation next when the Iowa Watch Connection continues.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge 458. We're going to get the weather for you here in just a moment because the weather is kind of, the weather is kind of the news tonight. It will be. Here, let me just, let's just hear from Weather Eye and they can tell you.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Chance of snow tonight, otherwise overcast. Lows around 7 above. Northerly winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies tomorrow, highs around 19. About an inch of snow tonight with another dusting Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm staff meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 19 degrees.
Hey, it's 5 o'clock, 4:59 actually, and Fox News is next. Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Take care. Good night. Be careful.
It's everything digital on the Kim Commando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A possible breakthrough. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A vote in the Senate set for later this week on two proposals that could end the partial government shutdown. Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
Competing proposals to reopen the government will get votes in the Senate Thursday.
Is the only proposal, the only one currently before us that can be signed by the president.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell laying out the case for legislation based on President Trump's proposal providing $5.7 billion in border wall funding in exchange for temporary protection for young immigrants brought to the country illegally as children. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer rejected it.
It hardly represents a softening of his position.
Instead, Schumer urging approval of a House-passed plan that would reopen the government for about 2 weeks' time, Schumer says, for a border security debate. Lisa.
Jared, this is the White House moves forward with plans for the president to deliver the State of the Union address 1 week from tonight, even after Speaker Nancy Pelosi asked the president to delay it until after the shutdown. A 23-year-old Massachusetts woman last seen leaving a Boston bar Saturday night has been found alive. Olivia Ambrose is now being evaluated at a hospital. Boston police expected to update the public this hour. Global growth worries and weak home sales sending stocks lower this afternoon.
The Dow dropping as much as 450 points, rebounding at the end of the day as IBM announced better than expected earnings. The Dow down 301 points, the S&P 500 ending 37 points down, the Nasdaq Composite down 136. It was a China trading day as investors focused on trade and worries about China's economy, which posted a 6.6% gain, considered anemic by China standards. Here at home, existing home sales disappointed, with the National Association of Realtors reporting December sales of 4.99 million. Well,
Jerry Wills with Fox Business Network. This is Fox News.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our many hilarious commercials.
Hi, did you know that you can get a quote on your motorcycle insurance in under 3 minutes at Progressive.com? And did you know that saying hi makes even bad news sound good? Hi, you have high cholesterol. Hi, you're fine.
And this is what that same commercial sounds like on your motorcycle.
Hi, there's no more pain.
Yeah, even our commercials sound better on a bike. And with basic policy starting at $75 a year, Progressive helps keep you on yours. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
36 days. That's how long it takes the average company to find their next hire. Glassdoor can help you quickly find the right job candidate in half the resumes. From 62 million job seekers, Glassdoor only matches you with qualified candidates who have the skills and experience your small business needs to grow. And Glassdoor hires are committed. They're 30% more likely to stay with your business longer. Go to glassdoor.com/hire. Glassdoor. Find the right fit for your business.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is releasing a proposed bill that would restore voting rights for felons through an amendment to the Iowa Constitution. The language released Tuesday would change Article 2 of the Constitution to say a felon gets voting rights back after the sentence is discharged. That means they could vote after serving their prison time and any probation or parole. It doesn't include complete repayment of all obligations, including restitution. That's an issue that could be a problem for some conservative lawmakers who have viewed Reynolds' proposal with skepticism. Reynolds says the move would bring Iowa in line with 35 other states that either never take away rights or restore them upon discharge of a sentence. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with a broad permanent ban on felons voting. Fire forced the evacuation of patients from Spencer Hospital in northwest Iowa last night, as Radio Iowa's Matt McWilliams reports.
The Spencer Fire Department says the call was received at 5:12 p.m. for a fire in the southwest corner of the hospital. Upon arrival, crews were directed to the surgical sterilization area, where a worker had detected smoke and noticed sparks coming from a sterilization washer. As a result of smoke entering other parts of the building, 16 patients were transferred to area facilities, but the Spencer Hospital president says at no time were patients or hospital employees in danger. Hospital officials are anticipating having the surgery center reopen later this week. Matt McWilliams, Radio Iowa, Spencer.
The Buena Vista County Sheriff's Office has released more information about a fatal accident on Storm Lake. Radio Iowa's Joel Herman reports.
The two people who died when a car broke through the iced-over lake late Sunday afternoon are identified as 40-year-old Zachary Newland of Anthon and his 8-year-old son. Two of Newland's other children, a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl, were airlifted to a Sioux Falls hospital. There's no word in their conditions. Investigators say it remains unclear why Newland drove the vehicle onto the ice. Joel Herman, Radio Iowa, Storm Lake.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa says she turned down Donald Trump's request to run as his vice president in 2016 because of family concerns. Ernst made the claim in an affidavit in a divorce proceeding that was first reported by City View, a Des Moines alternative newspaper. The filing was made in October but unsealed this month after Ernst and her former husband, Gail Ernst, settled their contentious divorce. Ernst wrote that after Trump interviewed her in July 2016 to be his running mate, she turned candidate Trump down knowing it wasn't the right thing for her or her family. She says it was a sacrifice she made for her husband, who wasn't fond of her political career. Ernst has indicated she'll run for a second 6-year Senate term in 2020. The White House and Trump campaign haven't responded to requests for comment Tuesday. This has been Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Chance of snow tonight, otherwise.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is gone, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage means you're probably on your way to being an everyday millionaire. Ah, yeah, best-selling book, baby, without a doubt. #1 best-selling author Chris Hogan joins me. In the midst of the Everyday Millionaire Tour, we will be doing a Smart Money live event tonight in Los Angeles at Irvine at Mariners Church, and excited about that. Chris, you've been doing media all morning, third week of the book tour. Are you running out of gas?
No, Dave, I am motivated and I'm wired up and fired up. The people have been fantastic at the book signings, out on the road as I'm meeting them and talking with them. I am ready to keep it rolling.
Time to go. Well, when you meet folks that are winning and are encouraged to go win, it keeps your energy level up, doesn't it?
It really does.
I think if you were meeting with sad people all day long, every day, you would be sad and ready to go home.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
after
I'd be
3
drained.
weeks. Yeah, after 3 weeks.
Be drained. But the media people have been fantastic. The radio people have been fantastic. People are excited about this message, Dave. I really feel like that we are going to give America really a shot in the arm of really looking and identifying of, hey, we can control our future. We get to make decisions. Nobody gets to tell me or limit me with what I can do when I'm armed with the right information and I have the right attitude.
Absolutely. And, you know, people want to believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
They want to believe they live in a country and in an economy where if they took action that they could have a positive result. But they've been told for so long that America's so broken and America doesn't work anymore for the little man, and America needs to be socialist, and America needs to be this, and America there's this whole drumbeat of negative mythology. And honestly, I call it mythology, but what it is lies.
Mm-hmm.
You've been lied to, America. And we know that because Chris and our team did the largest research project of millionaires, actual millionaires, people that are both Dave Ramsey followers and people that have never heard of Dave Ramsey, from what we call white space. Very carefully done, button-up research. The research technique is, well, it really cannot be criticized. It's perfect. It's airtight. And we were very careful because we knew people have an agenda, sadly, to destroy hope out there. And so the part of the fun of this book is to get to do battle with that.
Yeah. No, we want people to know the reality. We want you to see and read the stories of people that had to overcome some obstacles. They had some situations in their life. There's a gentleman in here that we talked to, one of the millionaires that was homeless, Dave, for a period of time. But all of these millionaires, it's not an accident. You know, they made a decision. They started moving in a direction for themselves, and they were able to do it. Now, there was no easy button. There was no magic fit pill or formula. They had to do some hard work, and they had to work over time. But Dave, what I love is that they kept their sight on the goal. You know, they didn't allow anything to deter them or cause them to move away from what they were trying to accomplish, and they were enjoying their lives in the process.
Yeah. And we found that there are millionaires of every race, every creed, color, national origin, Southern, Northern, even California people. I mean, we have to mess with you California people since we're over here. But yeah, seriously, I mean, everybody, it's amazing. Different people had different obstacles to overcome, but they did.
Yeah.
And we've each got our own little baby to rock here when it comes down to that stuff. But you know, the question is, can it be done? And based on, well, I mean, here's a Hispanic guy. Jose says, I drive a 10-year-old Mazda, a CX-9. It has almost 200,000 miles on it. And of all the cars we purchased in the past 10 years all the cars we purchased in the past 10 years have all been used cars when we purchased them in cash. Hispanic guy, millionaire.
Yeah.
One of the guys we interviewed.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He didn't go, well, all Hispanics have to have a new car.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a Hispanic disease or something.
Right.
It's not a Hispanic disease. It's not a black disease, not a white disease. It's a new car disease.
That's exactly right. And that's called giving up your money and your wealth building potential disease. So again, you know, like you said, Dave, we've all had obstacles. We've all had some challenges, but we get a chance in this country to decide. We get a chance to make a decision, to plug in for information that's going to help you get there, and we get a chance to do it. We have an incredible opportunity in front of us. And again, that mindset, Dave, one of the things that I looked at with the millionaires, one of the stats, it was huge. 92% of the millionaires stick to a long-term plan for their money.
Well, there you go.
Imagine that.
92% of the people that get to Florida had a map. They didn't wander down there and go, where's Arizona? Wait a minute, right. I'm in Florida. I mean, you know, you have a plan, you have a direction, and you follow the map. I mean, there you go. You know, 92% of the people that get in great shape have a plan. 92% of the people that run a marathon had a training plan.
Yes.
They didn't just wake up one morning and go, I'm going to go run a marathon. People do that, but they end up in the hospital.
Right.
You know, that's not how life works. And that's just no shock to me. So Chris did a big book signing here in Los Angeles last night. Tonight, he and I will be doing the Smart Money Live event at Mariners Church here in Irvine. And then now those of you up in the San Jose